Oh, hold on. Oh, shoot. Here we go. We're live. Welcome to the Amusing Panda live stream, your musing and amusing source for all things War Machine. I am your host, Alex Cosma, and this week we are talking the San Diego Beach Brawl. Eventually, we will be joined by one tournament organizer, Mr. Brandon Owens. But in this case, for now, we are joined by your event winner and champion, Mr. Bazooka Dan, aka Nick, aka John, aka John Basketball. How you doing, Nick?
Doing good. I thought it was funny that everybody thought my slew of nicknames was amusing.
Dog, come on.
Sorry,
I gotta let the dog in.
Oh, good.
Sticky, Jesus. I was about to beg Keith to hold on, I gotta let the dog in. Yeah, so we were just talking before the show. You're back, you're recovered. Has it set in for you, like the trophy and the reality of the whole thing?
Yeah, it's very cool. I came back. I was basically like as soon as I got back, I was excited to play more War Machine. I've been trying to get in even more games. Basically no rest. But yeah, no, it was a good weekend. It's been a good week so far. So.
Mm-hmm. And you won the San Diego Beach Brawl running a very unconventional choice, but thanks in no small part to being on your null team, running Army of the Western Reaches and showing people like this legacy faction still has some legs.
Uh,
It, but this was something of a swan song for Army of the Western Reaches for you, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was my first big event just in general, like traveling to an event. And I had been playing Army of the Western Reaches for a while. Post January update, they got really impressive and like really interesting, and I was like, this is a good time to try these out. And they did. They delivered. They did as well as I wanted them to. So.
Mm-hmm. And we're joined by joined by the master of ceremonies and our fearless leader, Mr. Brandon Owens. Brandon, thank you so much for running the beach brawl. How was your weekend?
It was awesome. It was my pleasure, and I caught the tail end of what Bazooka Dan here was saying, and I'm honored that the event I put on was the first big event you traveled to this year. So
It was the first event I've traveled to ever, actually.
Even better.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed the experience and that you want to do it again. And certainly for me, it was great to see all of my friends who I haven't seen in a while, and to see a bunch of new faces as well and meet new people. That's what I love about traveling to events myself, is I get to, one, see old friends, two, make new ones. And when you're running an event, you get to do that too. And sort of to a greater extent, because I'm not committed to playing games myself, so I get to interact with more people more often. So it was a blast.
Right. Yeah. You get to have I won't say necessarily a bit more of a casual weekend, but like there's not the gun to your head of like you've got to get to the table and like move your minis and be ready and doing all the stretching and stuff.
It
Pretty
certainly
much.
didn't feel casual at all. But it felt like I had the buy every round, and then somebody had to ask me a question every 5 minutes during the buy. So it was a lot of watch machine with interruptions.
Yeah.
Lots of help me step judges.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. That happened a lot.
Aaron,
I heard you.
We love him.
I heard you talking about how the current packet felt like at the start of every round you had like 15 different tables calling you to come do something.
Yeah, which I expect, honestly, that I'm going to get calls to move terrain. I'm ready for that in the beginning. But yeah, it's definitely a lot. Like half the tables need me to move a piece of terrain. And the players could do this themselves. And if they agree to it, I'm sure there are lots of tables where they move stuff without calling me. But part of my role as judge is to be there as a third party arbitrator to make those decisions, so that neither player has to feel like they're either giving something up to their opponent or that their opponent's taking advantage of them with a particular placement for something. So I'm happy to do it, but there was a lot of it that needs to be done, and it's going to be that way, I think, every tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with how consequential flags are, and how much variance there is in their placements. I will say one of the things from this event is you were using mostly the Terraniacs and official Steamforged terrain, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So versus being hot on the heels of an event like Adepticon that was mostly using, sort of retired privateer press terrain, there was a very different feel in the board set. More terrain pieces in general, slightly smaller in size. I will say, I think the variation in the boards was really, really good. There was a lot of variety in the style and set. But cross comparison with Adepticon, one of the things you saw with the larger privateer terrain package was there were like 8 terrain pieces, and basically every game where the flag was going was immediately broadcast, like you had one decision. And most of the boards I played on that had a flag had some level of consequential decision around the terrain and scenario set. So that felt really good. I will say I was one of the guys who I'm like, every round I talk to my opponent, I'm like, okay, so this can't land exactly here. Is it cool if we just snooch it? They're like, yeah, easy peasy.
I've been known in my own games when there's like a hill and an objective has to just sit on the hill. So it's not even an illegal placement. The objective can be there, but it's going to be at a 45-degree angle all game. I'm like, hey, what if we just bump this hill so that neither of us lose our mind with this 45-degree objective? And usually
Yep.
people like, yeah, move that hill. Even if it gives the person a slight advantage or disadvantage, it's like, can we just have this objective sit flat, please?
Yeah.
Yep.
So something
Yeah.
I saw, and I'm always curious for TOs how they go about setting boards. I remember WTC 24. I saw Seth Cohen had made these like gigantic protractor like devices that had like marks for payload and all these different things. Like everyone on the judging team, I saw them the day before going around and protracting out all these terrain. Like, are you eyeballing it, or do you have a method for getting a good board set?
So it's a combination. I prearranged what each of the tables was going to have before the event. So I made 3 custom or 3 sets of like themed boards beforehand in terms of new stuff that I printed. And then I also had a bunch of terrain that I'd printed and had painted up previously that I used to fill out the rest of the tables. But so, for instance, for the chemical refinery table, I had a list, and some of you may have seen this sheet floating around somewhere where like each table is supposed to have 4 of these specific walls, one of this obstruction, one of this obstruction, one of this obstruction, and then a burning forest, and then an acid pool and 2 acid clouds or whatever it is. So I knew beforehand what the 12 to 14 pieces were going to be on each table. So I'd go through and lay them out on each table. And then I set them up generally to have some amount of line of sight blocking in the middle. I tried to make sure that I wasn't setting them up exactly the same way, but we need some LOS blocking in the middle. Some tables had more, some tables had less, as it should be. And then in terms of the scenario, I have in my head where these flags are generally for each of the scenarios, and there are only a couple that put them in sort of really fringe places. And I know where those sort of zones are based on playing in a lot of tournaments and sitting down at a table where, oh no, it's the scenario with a flag that's 8 inches from the side and 15 inches up, and there's nothing there for it, right? Or the only thing there is at the center line. That sucks. So I tried to make sure that I had stuff on the periphery to be options for flags on both of those parts of the table. And I eyeballed it with that in mind, but it seemed like I managed to hit the mark in terms of always having terrain for those flags and not having it always just be a house in the middle of the table, which sometimes it's going to be, right? But I don't want that to be the case at every table. So
it's funny. I think that's kind of the answer I was expecting, is that it's sort of just a reflex at this point, but here's evidence that works out. Let's see. So we've sort of started on the event, but before we get too deep into it, I do want to talk some news and announcements. Today, this morning, Steamforged did us a favor of dropping a brand new model. So we see the first of the new 80 mil super heavies. We have Imperatus Ashen Phoenix. Give me your guys' gut takes here. What do we think of this guy?
I've been looking at it a bunch today. We have a local Dusk guy in our meta. And then I'm one of the armies I'm looking into is Fan of Nairo, so I've been just like trying to evaluate stuff for both halves of Dusk a bit more. And I think he's really interesting. He seems like one of the more difficult of the 80 mil characters for me to evaluate. Just he has like so many rules. He's much less linear than something like just Behemoth, which is just big numbers. He is like very, very versatile. I am curious to see where he will see play. I was talking about it with my local guy, and we were wondering if it would take the place of like a Phantasm potentially in like a double Phantasm list. Because something I know that at least my local guy struggles with is generally winning like heavy trades, like exchanges. And Imperatus for when you're exchanging like large pieces counts as 2 because he revives himself with Rekindled. So it's interesting. I'm curious to see where it'll see play. I don't know if it'll fit into any of the conventional lists that fit right now, but it would be cool to see it like create something new, which is what I'm hoping for. I think all the Dusk casters are very, very awesome. So to see a new interesting list would be very cool. So.
Yeah, something to shake up the conventional paradigms we've had a lot of lately. Brandon, I know you were not a giant fan of this model just based on some of the discussions earlier today. What's your first blush on Imperatus?
Well, the first thing that stands out to me is that he costs 24 points.
That is a lot. It's a
that is a lot.
It is just shy of me being able to say he is literally a quarter of your army. I cannot legally say he's literally a quarter of your army because he's 24 points, but he's there, right? So he's very expensive. And I think what Nick identified is sort of the core of what he does, which is ideally you get 2 meaningful commits out of him. But I don't know that he's worth those 2 meaningful commits. Certainly in most lists, he's not going to be. I think you have to have a very specific setup to get good value from him because he has so many limitations built into his rules. You have to choose each of your Phoenix protocols before you can choose the same Phoenix protocol again. Your gun shot types for your Phoenix cannon or whatever it's called is you don't get to pick it. It's based on your current Phoenix protocol for the Phoenix projector. So you can't have these cool turns where you're like, I want to be in Retribution protocol so that I have the threat range and sidestep, but I want to use the Voidwalker protocol or the Wildfire protocol or projection in order to move something off of a scenario element or closer to me or whatever it is, right? Like whatever you're in, that's what your gun does. And I think it's going to create awkward tempos for the Dusk player because you must choose a Phoenix protocol each turn. So on turn 1, you have to pick one, even though you may not want to. You don't have a choice. So you might be wasting a Phoenix protocol in a given turn. And on turn 3, your opponent knows exactly what Phoenix protocol you're going to have to choose. So they can plan their turn around that. If you haven't used your Retribution protocol yet, then they know you're going to have your free charge and sidestep for that turn. And they're going to obviously try to prevent you from getting into melee that turn so that it's wasted, right? If you haven't used your Voidwalker protocol yet, then they know that on the following turn, you're going to be hardest to shoot. And or that's the turn you're going to have access to Ghostly or whatever. And they're going to be able to plan around that. Which isn't to say that those protocols are bad. Each of them is independently very good. But it's a limitation on top of it. And when I'm looking at a model that's 24 points, that is 2 points cheaper than a Phantasm, or the cost of 2 Eidolons, right? Like that's really expensive. I'm looking at these limitations and sort of reducing my valuation of the model as I go along. And then on top of all of that, its main thing is that it's going to be hard to kill. It has rekindled. And by the way, I really dislike game design where you take a core rule of the game and say, but in this special circumstance, it doesn't apply.
Right.
Every time, like they started doing a lot of that towards the end of Mark III, and that's not the reason the game went off the rails, but it was kind of part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like things like Sylvester, where you're like, this is stealth, except for real, where nobody gets to ignore it, right? Like I don't like that game design. And they've been doing little bits of that here and there lately, and I really hope that they don't continue that trend, because the game gets to a really untenable place when all of a sudden you have rules that apply 99% of the time, but don't in certain circumstances. It's not a good situation for a game to be in. And it's also really a bad arms race. Because like if you think Grievous Wounds effects are too strong, then dial them back. Don't start introducing things that ignore Grievous Wounds effects. Because at some point you're going to introduce a model that is too strong because it ignores Grievous Wounds effects, and then you introduce a super Grievous Wound effect that works on those models too, right? And you ask yourself, like, how did we get here? Because you opened the door in the first place. So just don't open the door, in my opinion. But I'm not Steamforged. I know they want to do the right thing. That's just my position on that.
So in Magic the Gathering parlance, there's already a term for this. It's called the hexproof problem.
Yes.
In Magic the Gathering introduced like can't be targeted by enemy spells or abilities. And then they introduced cards that were like, opponents' cards lose hexproof. And then they introduced like hexproof can't be removed. And it's this big dumb back and forth. I think when it comes to rekindled, there's a few areas in the game that suffer from the hexproof problem, and one of them is anti-healing abilities. It turns out there's just too much that comes off permanently from effects like Grievous Wounds or Entropic Force that like full on stop an interaction from working that's like decisive, pivotal, or gets paid for in some big way. At nearly a quarter of your army's total composition cost, it would probably be unreasonable for this model not to have some immunity for that. But it also eliminates a whole domain of counterplay. I mean, because you're paying for this rule and then you have something that subverts it. To be honest, I think Steamforged in future major revisions needs to have their eye on the inclusion of the hexproof problem, and probably be moving towards something like Magic introduced, where it's ward, where we stop targeting unless you pay an extra price, or have something like, okay, here's the healing factor, and your Grievous Wounds value has a number. And, this is the amount it takes off a healing factor. Something like that potentially. But yeah, I get your point. They're definitely in that state. I will say, just to counter some of your arguments against that, Imperatus does have the hexproof problem right now. And even though he is costly, there's something that happens with him when he dies for the first time, which is all the infantry around him just dies. And then
blows up.
Yep, he'll get to come back.
Well, they take POW 12s, right?
Yeah. Well,
which kills some infantry, but there's a whole portion of the game that's not going to kill.
That's true, yeah. But it's non-trivial to like, if you try and finish this guy with single wound infantry, they're all going to die. It's worth noting in Phoenix Protocol, he has an extra box per system. So he starts with 32 and then comes back with 20. And if he dies in his caster's control area, he can also teleport to within 2 inches of them.
He has 16 boxes when he Phoenix Protocols, right?
Or you're right, 16. Sorry. Yeah, he comes back with exactly half his grid. Yeah.
And there's still counterplay to that aspect. Like if you can position him outside of his controlling caster's control range, then he doesn't get to teleport, and then you finish him off. If you cripple him down to just a few boxes with crippled systems, you can save him for the next turn. But yeah, I mean, it's a very good rule. And the question to me is whether he's worth 24 points with that rule, which I think is the primary impetus for taking Imperatus. But so when I'm making that evaluation, I'm looking at, okay, what is his actual output? He has 2 melee weapons and he's a Warjack. His melee weapons are POW 20. There are a lot of situations where he doesn't kill another heavy by himself, right? Especially if it's not on the turn where you have Retribution Protocol available, so you get that free charge. He probably doesn't kill another heavy there. He certainly doesn't kill a Colossal by himself. But if you send him in to kill a heavy and he doesn't do it by himself, and then he gets Phoenix Protocol triggered and teleports back to his caster, and he has 16 boxes, are you taking Void Shapers? Are you making him cost 26 to 28 points for Void Shapers? If not, then you're not healing him any more than that, unless you're playing Hazaroth or maybe with Old Faithful. Are you taking Seeker Adepts? Or are you going to let your opponent be able to disrupt him, and then he just has a turn where he definitely doesn't kill another heavy because he doesn't really do anything, right? So like, he requires support to really, I think, squeeze out his ability to do this attrition game that you want to do to take advantage of untapping him twice, or committing him twice, not untapping him twice, right? And I don't know that you can get the value you need out of him once you invest into this. And to me, when I'm looking at a model like the Phantasm that costs slightly more than this, or most Colossals, or a super heavy that is expensive, you need to be able to get value at range, where you have multiple turns of untapping at range before the model gets to go into melee and die. That's how you get that consistent value out of a model. And he's Rat 5 with 2 okay guns, and then like 2 utility guns that have these severe limitations based on what Phoenix Protocol he's in. And as a Warjack, Rat 5 for these guns just doesn't feel right to me. Maybe if he was Rat 6, I'd feel better about it. I don't think that'd be too powerful. But I look at this model, I'm like, this is a 24-point melee model. I feel like I'd rather have a Phantasm that threats further, that hits harder, and that has really useful guns as well that it gets to use, and is harder to kill in one go, right? Like, not counting Phoenix Protocol. And I also look at him and I'm like, so like, you get this second untap, but then he goes in with half health, assuming your opponent doesn't put more gunshots into him, right? He might just end up still being crippled. Who knows what the table state looks like? But I feel like you're taking 24 points. You're putting yourself in a position where you must get his value back. And I don't want to be in that spot, especially in Dusk, where you're already incentivized to take so much support right now. Yeah, that's what concerns me.
So I'll counter with a couple of points, which is like, basically every criticism you've made of Imperatus, even though you've listed it as a counterexample, all those critiques are true of the Phantasm. The Phantasm has literally the same array of problems.
And from speaking with Dusk players and watching them play, Dusk players are increasingly taking the Phantasm out of their list for those exact reasons. So I agree with you completely. Those criticisms largely apply to the Phantasm as well. And they're both in the same boat because they both cost the same amount of points in terms of this doesn't often feel good for the Dusk player.
Yeah. I will mention regarding Phoenix protocols, you have to pick all 3 before you can repeat a pick. I will say there is something to the tempo of Phoenix protocols when starting the game. Because your turn 3 pick is broadcast to your opponent. And that's all well and good, but the decision is still in your hands. I reckon, if we look at, there's 2 defensive abilities and 1 offensive ability. So Wildfire and Voidwalker are both defensive. When it comes to projectors, 1 is dodge, 1 is evasive. When it comes to the projectors, Wildfire is broadly less useful unless you're specifically using it to threat range enable other models. And then Voidwalker is, it's nice. Does a similar thing to Wildfire, less impactful. I reckon probably the way you start this guy is turn 1, pick a defensive protocol. So you're coming off the line. you're picking something defensive. Then turn 2, which is either when engagement starts or when engagement is deferred, you get to pick your next ability. So if your opponent has chosen that engagement starts on Imperatus's second untap, you get to pick offense if you need to. And, you know, if your opponent has chosen to defer, or you choose to defer, you pick a second defensive option. You know, by the time that your second defensive option is out the gate, there's usually, like, in terms of engagement space, nothing to do but offense anymore. So projecting it is fine, you know, because the game will naturally project that way. Like, essentially, yeah, your third choice is projected, but you still get to have a meaningful decision around it. And I think a standard tempo when turn 2 is defer is going to be Wildfire, Voidwalker, and then Retribution. And then, you know, on turn 4, you're off to the races. You can do whatever you want.
As a brief interrupt to Jay Beatnick's comment, it doesn't actually work that way because takedown does not remove from play until boxed. Takedown only prevents tough on disabled because that's when tough occurs, but it's two separate clauses.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so go ahead.
I was going to say, I agree with you that the Phoenix protocols are still very powerful abilities. I think I said that in the beginning. I'm not trying to detract from that, but when a model costs 24 points and a lot of it is invested in these unique abilities, to me, it loses some of that power when you are giving your opponent an easy way to plan around them. Like, Imperatus only threats 11 inches baseline to charge outside of, I think, 3 casters in Dusk, Tyrus, Seraphel, and Hazaroth. And then he threats 13. So it's fairly easy to imagine a game where it's turn 2 and your opponent's like, I'm just not going to put anything within 11 inches of Imperatus. So it's not an offensive turn for you, but also I'm doing work elsewhere. And then on the following turn, I'm going to use my defensive feat. And so then maybe it's not an ideal offensive turn for you either. Or he gets hit with some control effect, or a Thunderbolt or something, right? Because he doesn't have anything, and none of the Phoenix protocols give him sturdy, right? None of them protect him from disruption. If he's already used the protocol that gives him knockdown immunity, then maybe you like knock him down on top of that. And if you aren't taking adepts because you spent 24 points on a single Warjack, then all of a sudden you lose an attack, right? Because you maybe get a free charge, but you've had to spend a focus to shake knockdown or something. And it would be much more powerful if you could just choose the protocol you wanted on a given turn and didn't have this limitation. If he was cheaper, I think this limitation is a great balancing tool. But at 24 points, he's a fourth of your army. Like, the man needs to have some flexibility and not just let your opponent have an additional level of counterplay where they just say, well, I know what you're going to do, so let me build my turn around that as well. You look at other models that have lots of options, they get to exercise their options freely, keep your opponent guessing, and that adds to their power. And just when I'm evaluating this model, I see that he lacks that, and it's one more box that I'm checking when, you know, asking, is he worth his points? And I don't know, like, we just saw his rules today, to be clear, right? This is my initial take. I've never seen him on the table. I've never seen any play testing with him. I've never heard about or talked about his rules before today at all. He could be fantastic and completely warp the meta. Who knows? But these are the things that I look at. And I'm like, I'm not instantly impressed.
Sure. I mean, I am to a certain extent reminded of Thunderhead. Like, when he came out, you know, there was definitely some like, you know, like, Huxley is a caster that doesn't make sense. And then we see Thunderhead and it's like, oh, this is the missing key piece. You mentioned there are 2 casters, you know, that, or 3 casters that make him go faster. And I think he's an immediate key piece fit with Hazaroth and Seraphel. You know, so like rating him outside the context of those toolkits is I don't think you'll see him often anywhere else. inside the context of those two toolkits, I think is where he needs to be rated.
Yeah, and they each have severe limitations, right? Like Searfeld doesn't have any accuracy or damage buffs for him unless you count Force Hammer. So when he has to go in and kill a heavy to do his first trade, he's going in at Mat 7 POW 20. And like we talked about, that's often not going to be good enough. And then Hazaroth gives him the threat range 2 and gives him a damage buff, but again, no accuracy fix unless you're throwing his Shadowbind spell at something, which great, maybe you do that. But that is a lot of investment for your 24 point model to kill that first model.
Right. And if you
I don't know,
check,
like I don't.
If you want to check all those boxes, you're actually talking a list comp component that costs like 46 points. Because you're looking at Imperatus, Selena, Sasha, Banky, and then some adepts.
Yeah. And like Searfell doesn't really interact favorably with Sasha and Banky in any way. They're great models independently. Yeah, I suppose Moraine can give him Mirage. You're right. She has that spell. There is some scornergy with Moraine because she can't Spirit Door him back, which would be really cool if she could, but he's just too thick, so she can't do it.
Too big.
But I mean, Mortality is the kind of thing that he would love to have otherwise. And, you know, frankly, I think Moraine is the best place for him. But then you can't take any of these other journeyman or junior or lesser warlocks or warcasters that you want to take with Moraine because he's 24 points. Are you going to spend, what was it? 46 points we said to take Sasha and Banky on top of it? Don't make me do math on air. Are you going to spend half of your army?
Yeah.
Half of your army? 42 points, right?
42 plus 4 for Seeker Adepts, yeah.
Yeah, like that's half of your army to take this module. And he's really good with Mortality and Mirage. He gets in there, he does really good work, and then he can come back when he dies. But that's half your army. And he could just be like 24 points of anything else and still do really good work. And be separate modules that you can commit as you feel the need to. So, I don't know. I mean, you're definitely not taking a Void Engine with him, right? And Soulless Guardians?
Probably not.
On top of that?
I don't know.
All right. Well, that was that actually went longer than I was expecting. Going into the controversy of the new release. Thank you to Steamforge for dropping this gem on us today. Let's shift gears into the uncontroversial celebration of the San Diego Beach Brawl. So Brandon, you know, I have an array of things, you know, that I think would be as a first time IGQ and an enormously successful one, something that might be interesting to our audience and particularly community organizers in our audience. So how did it come together? How did it come off? And what are the plans for next year?
So the origin of the Beach Brawl dates all the way back to 2019 when we were in a different era and arguably universe of War Machine.
I still had hair.
At some point in 2019, I was like, I want to throw or put on an event in San Diego, specifically because we used to have Kingdom Con, and I think the last Kingdom Con was in 2018. And there was sort of a void in San Diego in terms of an event to bring in people from out of state. And I missed that, having a bunch of friends that I'd grown to really enjoy seeing all come to San Diego and have a War Machine event from other parts of the country that we could all enjoy together. And I was like, I want to put that on myself. I want to do something. It's not going to be Kingdom Con. It's not going to be a whole convention, but I can at least put on a fun qualifier tournament to bring people in from out of state. And so I went through the planning process. I found a venue. I did the financials to make sure I could cover the cost of tables, terrain, prize support, the venue itself, etc. I sold tickets. We had a whole bunch of people. I think we had 30 something people signed up for the event who had bought tickets. I had everything lined up, ready to go. It was scheduled for my birthday weekend in mid-April of 2020. And as you may recall, or in the future you will read in history books, the world shut down about a month before that. So that one never happened. And I lost my deposit on it, on the venue. I could have told people like, sorry, the event got canceled. There's nothing I can do about it. And I can't refund your tickets because I paid all this money for the deposit. But I didn't want to do that to people because, in my heart, I was like, at some point in the future, who knows when it's going to be? I'd like to do this event again. And if like eating the cost of losing the deposit here isn't going to break me, then I'll bear the cost. Because I know for some people it would have a bigger impact. So it was very disappointing that didn't happen. Money was wasted on it. I'm sure not just for me. I'm sure people booked flights and hotels that they had to cancel that they couldn't get the money back, right? Like it sucked for everybody when COVID lockdown happened. But that's when the seed was planted for this event, was when that couldn't go off. I was like, at some point in the future, we're going to do this again. And then, I started playing War Machine again in 2000, what was it, 2022 or 21 when we went back to our first event?
Yeah. We went to the Indianapolis qualifier in 21. And then played through the start of Mark III and then noped out not long after Vegas and then came back, 24, 25? I want to say 24, late 24.
So a year or so passed after the first event before we were able to have any events again. And we all started playing War Machine outside again and traveling, going places, and it was great. But as you probably know, planning an event takes time. If you want to get people to come from out of state, you don't just say, hey, in 2 months, I'm going to do this event, because you won't be able to get those people traveling from out of state. They have to have time to plan. You have to have time to pick a good venue and have everything set up, because if it comes time for the day of the event and you're like, oh, actually, I was planning to do it here, but the store's busy, like that doesn't fly, right? So I didn't have time between when we started traveling again and when I stopped playing the game to plan another event, because the community was still recovering. Not everybody was traveling again. The first events that we were going to were very small because a lot of people were still afraid to get on planes and travel. A lot of venues still weren't available yet. A lot of places went out of business. A lot of people had quit playing the game because of the year of nothing happening, right? And Privateer Press was a very different company than Steamforge, and they weren't especially good stewards during that time either. But this is getting too long-winded, I'm sorry. But bottom line, it wasn't until the last couple of years when I started, I guess 2 years, when I started playing again, that I was like, I'm going to do this event again. And last year, I finally sat down and did the planning and advertised it to get people to come. And it felt really good for me, because this was basically a 6-year dream deferred that I finally got to execute or put on. So that was really exciting for me, because it's been 6 years in the making at this point.
Right. Yeah. And I know when we had some last minute cancellations this year, couple just the day before, Aaron barely made it in time. But when you put tickets up for this thing, it almost immediately sold out. And, I had a great time. Nick, this was your first time traveling for a War Machine event. How high has the bar been set here?
It was good. I don't have anything to compare it to, but my local meta, I have a couple guys who went to Lock and Load last year with Cosmo. And they were talking, it was one of their first times traveling too, and they came back and they just had a lot of really, really good stories to tell. They were talking about how great the community was and how great the TOs were and the judges, and basically just only had praise and good things to say. And so as a Tucson native, I saw in a Discord or something that there's an event in California, and I'm like, that's a drivable distance. I was like, okay, well, we'll head over to that. And and it was awesome. I got to meet a lot of like people whose names I saw pop up a bunch on like Discord or on Longshank, so I never actually got to see before. And the community is awesome. The event was awesome. We had a lot of time to like just hang out in between rounds, or like we got dinner after day one. It was great. It was very, very fun experience. I'd recommend it to anybody who really has the means to travel for War Machine.
Mm-hmm. And Nick, one of the priorities for me when I was planning this event was to have a schedule that allowed the players to enjoy themselves and socialize during the event and before and after the event. And as Cosm and I are two people who travel to a lot of events, and this is sort of a broader criticism I have of War Machine in its current iteration, which is nobody's fault and is sort of a symptom of not a disease, but I guess growing pains, right? The community is in such a sharp renaissance right now that TOs and event organizers have had so many more people than their event can really accommodate with the schedule that they have, that when you go to a lot of these events, you're playing 4 and 5 round days back to back, which is great practice. It is exhausting, but the thing it doesn't allow for is people to go out to dinner and have drinks afterwards. It doesn't allow people to chat in between rounds or have any lunch break at all, let alone one where they get to engage in social time. And I really wanted to bring some of that to my event, which is why from the very beginning, it was going to be a 5-round event with 3 rounds on day 1 and 2 rounds on day 2. I wanted to make sure we had time to go out and just hang out after the event and to have an hour-long lunch break. So that was built in to the DNA of the event from the beginning, and I was really happy that it worked out that way. And a whole bunch of people, a ton of us went to the same place for lunch, and a lot of people had some good conversations. We went out afterwards for drinks and food at a local brewery and hung out for a couple of hours. And to me, that really is the fundamental aspect of traveling for War Machine. It's not just playing good games of War Machine. I mean, there's no money in this, right? Like traveling to play War Machine, while it is the best training tool, like who really cares if that's all it is? You want to meet new people and hang out with your friends and have that social human experience. So I'm very glad to hear that you enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I so agree with everything you just said. Like, the real War Machine is the friends we made along the way. Which is cheeky. But it's a sort of experience that makes coming back and coming back and coming back an experience really worth getting after. And it does take some time and some deliberate intention, both as a player and as an organizer, to have a space that's really, really conducive to that. And, I think you knocked it out of the park on this one. For me, like the scheduling being worked out in this way too, like I was able to spend some quality time with, some players who I trust and, revisit. For me, it was like a massive level up experience going to the beach Brawl, just to really reflect and meditate on my play and where I'm at in the game as a competitor, and do it in the company of people whose opinions I really trust and value, and have the breathing space at this like high stakes, high energy tournament to have those conversations that are gonna impact me, my play, and my career. So I'd say mission accomplished.
Glad to hear it.
And then so given an event of this magnitude, I can't imagine this is going to be the only year. What are we looking at for next year? Or is that too soon to talk?
So right now, I am just recovering from what for most people is probably going to feel like a surprising amount of energy that I put into it. They're like, you just ran an event. You just had to sit there at the judges table and get up when Aaron said, step judge, I'm stuck every 5 minutes. But and also before I go on, I want to point out that this wouldn't even be possible without a ton of support from our local community and lots of individual players, not just at the event, but in the months leading up to it. I printed a whole bunch of terrain for this event beforehand. For months, I was printing terrain, and obviously it's expensive to do that. And tons of people in SoCal contributed money towards resin costs to print terrain. And then a whole bunch of people volunteered to help paint terrain. One of our locals, Ed, Ike, Jason, they all did a ton of painting of terrain to help get the stuff painted up. So I didn't have to do all the painting myself. And then the day of, people showed up early. They helped me set up tables, helped organize everything else. Obviously, you were there helping set up the streaming equipment and getting that running. So none of this would be possible without the community. This is not a one-man show, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I'm so appreciative of everybody that did help, and appreciative of everybody else just in general for their patience and support as sometimes we fumble through things to get things going. But that said, it's a ton of energy. And so right now I'm just trying to chill and like focus on other things and relax and enjoy the success of the weekend. But I definitely want to put another one on next year. I would like to increase the capacity. And as much as I enjoy and appreciate Eddie's games where we hosted it, it would be nice to have a larger venue that can accommodate more, because I think we were basically at the capacity of the space they had for us. So definitely keep your eyes open and your ears open for information about Beach Brawl 2027. The trophies that I made this year say Beach Brawl 2026. The reason they say 2026 is because I don't want it to be the last one. Nick needs to be able to make a collection. There it is. Nick needs to be able to start a collection for each year.
Is the next one going to be the year of Vargas?
I don't know. We'll see. We're going to have a whole bunch of STLs between then and now. We get to pick a new one each time.
Oh,
although
man.
I think Silvestro is a perfect trophy character.
It might be fun though to have them as like a continuously cycling thing, like each the next year's is the previous champions. Because I believe you won the last Kingdom Con Masters, the spiritual success or the spiritual precursor here.
I hadn't even thought of that, but I did win the Kingdom Con's final Warfare Weekend Qualifier / Masters, and it was playing Silvestro, so that was appropriate.
Yeah.
It literally didn't even occur to me until you just brought that up. So we need to be able to find some Scorn Sculpt for next year. Who knows if we'll have anything, but if there is an STL, that'd be great for a trophy.
Yeah. Well, so just piggybacking off of that, 2 points. When I talked to Peter last year about the organization of the WTC in Sweden, he was very much like, it ain't a one-man show. It takes a village. For anyone in the audience, if you got an organizer, go out and show them some love. And when they have a dream, like, really get behind them and help it come off, because like, that's usually the way it works, is with everybody pulling together under a visionary. So the second piggyback is this weekend was supposed to be the launch of an all new companion streaming channel that the YouTube cops put in jail basically as soon as I tried to do all the events set up before it the night before. The account got suspended for suspected TOS violations, and we didn't have the streaming endpoint, so we ran it through Amusing Panda. I just got the email today that the suspension appeal on Urcane Wargaming has been reversed. So we will have a new destination for all our tournament live streaming endeavors. In the meantime, thanks to everyone who is watching. We're gonna figure out
to put
some way
in jail, but you broke him out.
Yeah. We're gonna try and figure out some way to get that promoted to the community and put together more premier events for y'all. In the meantime, I just want to give a huge thank you and shout out to all our volunteer stream commentators. So we had producer Keith, Jake Van Meter, Peyton Priest, James from Portland, John Damaris, and Dan Riker. So it was an all-star cast. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and give those a watch. Keep an eye out for the official official but delayed launch of the new channel. And go ahead and hit the link in the description if you like what we do. Support the streaming endeavors on Ko-Fi. It really helps because, you know, all this has been a pretty big outlay. And we want to keep being able to bring this to you.
Yeah, Stephen Williams, absolutely. I was so stoked, even though I was running this event and like super busy with that while it was going on, to know that there were 3 events being live streamed simultaneously throughout the weekend. The Moment of Clarity guys over in Europe, the collateral damage guys for it was the Ohio tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ours.
Yeah, the Gem City. Yeah.
Coming out of the weekend, people basically got, I think, dozens of games that they can watch throughout the week when they need to entertain themselves or listen to while driving or doing something else. I mean, that's the reason that we started doing the Arcane Wargaming streaming in the first place, is we want to join this effort in the community to put more games out there. And seeing a weekend where there were 3 different streams going on really felt like this community is coming back kind of thing. Like streaming is here to stay now. If only there was a tournament in Colorado that the Zero Camp guys could have been doing. We could have had 4 going. That'd be insane. Like even 3 just feels so wild right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're coming back in a big way. And I think that's one of the things, like last year, you know, because in the post-COVID times, we got very used to like the small events, whether it be reticence to travel or Privateer Press's mismanagement of their gaming community. We got used to the small qualifier, and this year is banging again. Like, this is great. But yeah, I guess, should we get into the actual play of the weekend? I guess the big congrats goes out to Nick for winning the inaugural Beach Brawl
and his inaugural tournament that he traveled to.
Yeah,
first one. Yeah, I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, no, you did it with a faction that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had a bit of a vibe going into this weekend. Like, I think Nick could win this whole thing. I think it's in him. And then we started playing. I'm like, I think Nick's got this.
I didn't expect to do as well as I did. I didn't think I was gonna do bad, but I did not expect to win. I thought I would do a good showing for Scorn, but no, we got to pull one through for all the Scorn enjoyers. So. I'm happy about that.
So your run to first place was using a faction that for a lot of people doesn't even rate. I know you've been rocking Army of the Western Reaches for quite some time now. And you know, I think we played at a couple of Tucson tournaments last year. I'm looking at the Force pre-lethality nerf, and I'm like, this army's got some gas to it. Nobody aside from Eric Akers seems to rate it. Talk to us. But this is something of a, you know, it sounds like something of a swan song for you running this army. So talk to us about Army of the Western Reaches and how you've been on a tear with it recently and what makes it so good.
I got into the game in like late 2023. I was playing Dark Host. Because legacy armies were cheaper, and I was like just out of high school. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna play whatever's the cheapest thing I can get. And so I picked up like basically FA of Legacy Dark Host for like dirt cheap. And I started playing, and I'm like, man, this army is really punishing. Really both ways. Like your victim stats and everything just died if you mispositioned you a little bit. And I played Grimkin for a year. And then I was like Grimkin was like a kind of oppressive place for a little while. They just had like they got a couple nerfs in early 2025. So end of 2024, I was like, okay, it's time to find something that's more fun and interesting. And I found someone selling both halves of Scorn. And I intended to play Exalted. I intended to play the Rock guys. But I got them. I started playing Army of the Western Reaches first, just like for fun. And I was like, man, these seem way more interesting to me than Exalted personally. I just like the like fast play style. I thought their game plan was a little less linear, and I thought that was really interesting. So starting like January of last year, I've been playing since then. I've been playing them. Um, I I was having like a good amount of success with them last year, but then start of this year, like the big January update, we had a culmination of a lot of factors that kind of made the army feel a little bit like very very real. So like general lethality went down, which meant that armies that like had any form of defense skew or base defense like base defense stats got a little bit better. Plus, we had a couple like pretty clutch point decreases, and a couple of the matchups that I was not super fond of got worse. And so, like a culmination of a lot of things, just made that army feel very, very real. They gave us a thing that you'll see in my pairs, or in my list that I played all weekend. Eventually, when we get to that, if we talk about that, is they made one of the units that was before not necessarily unplayable, but like not great. 5 points. They made the Praetorian Carax. They dropped them from 6 points to 5 points. And also with lethality going down, they are kind of an intended like pit, like a kind of like a catcher's mitt unit. They're really hard to remove. They made them even cheaper and made them harder to kill. And so I was like, okay, we can like start trying to abuse that. So I've been testing with them. I was testing with Makeda and Zadesh. I was playing Makeda for a while with a Mammoth, and I was like, man, there's got to be something better, because when both of my lists played Mammoth, because you kind of need one in Zadesh, because the thing the army really struggles with is they do not crack armor especially well. Most of their models are POW 10.
I was gonna say, like, Makeda 2 is sort of the premier caster. When you're looking at this army, she immediately jumps out, but she does nothing for damage. She wants to run all infantry. Your infantry is relatively light in the pants for damage, especially what she wants to run, where you're focused on disproportionate defensive values.
Like and your beasts don't trade up. Your most of your units are POW 10, except for the cats and the Legends block. You just can't really kill anything. So I was playing Zadesh first, because I was like, well, I need something to complement her. So I was playing Zadesh for a while. I was playing him double Animanthrax with a Mammoth. With the idea being Animanthraxes are kind of sticky to remove, because Zadesh's feat gives them defensive strike and +2 mat, +2 damage for a round. He gives your whole army that. And so he gives these models that have knockdown attacks and base mat and POW pretty high a defensive strike. So if a heavy tries to come up and remove one of these things, and if they don't have steady, they just get knocked down and take a POW base POW 20, but POW 23 if it has rage on it at mat 11. So you just basically auto hit most heavies and knock them down. So they require like an over investment into them. And then the Mammoth just fits in really well with the general game plan of giving him something to sack pawn to, a very crazy gun, giving you like a way to set tempo. And it just kind of made sense to like put it all together and kind of just play this really, really sticky list for grinding. However, we are kind of, as people have talked about a bunch before, we're kind of in a bit of a gun meta. A lot of the best lists right now are like Kane or Lilith or Firequill. And he is not, although he himself is really hard to assassinate, he doesn't have the like number of models to survive having an Animanthrax or, God forbid, 2 get take off the table. Once like 1 or 2 of those go, you kind of just can't come back. So I started testing with Makeda as my off list. And at first I was playing her with a Mammoth. And I was playing double Mammoth in my pair, and I was like, well, this is not great. For people who've never had to play against Makeda before, her spell card or her character is pretty. She has a lot of rules. So her feat is boosted attack rolls and no knockdown for all models in my control range for melee attack rolls. Her spells are all very solid. You have dash and deflections. You have a threat extender. You have deflection, which gives you real play into a gun meta, like making your pretty high defensive stat models a little bit harder to hit. Force Strike is situationally a very powerful spell. Sometimes you need to knock someone down. And Storm Rager goes really well on Redeem, so that's pretty cool. But where most of her value comes from is her abilities, just her flat-out abilities. She has Elite Cadre for her small base Praetorians that gives basically all of your warrior models, your small base warrior models, Vengeance, which in a gun meta, Vengeance is a very powerful rule. It's another threat extension. And then the big one is Stay Death. So basically, if a friendly living warrior model within 10 inches of it would die, so you can spend 1 fury point to make it not die effectively. And it stacks with tough. So you get to like have a mostly like innately steady or shield wall army that you can pretty trivially give tough to. That is hard to shoot. So your opponent has to roll pretty high to hit something. You have to exceed their armor 17, which is not nothing for the Karax. If you do manage to surpass it, we have tough. If we fail the tough roll, we can Stay Death. And if we don't, then we have Vengeance. And so it's just like so many layers of things you have to chew through for a recursive army.
Right. On top of models that cost like nothing, like Karax being 5 points is like there's almost no attack you can put into these models that comes out net positive in terms of value. Especially with girded, and they just have blast resist on top of all their other defensive features.
Yeah, and so the goal, I was playing it with a mammoth for a while, and it was double mammoth was my pair, and it didn't feel great because there's field guns around randomly. There's blinding light. There's like so many like. And also just like playing double mammoth in a list just never really feels great to me. But I started experimenting with it, and then I forget who it was. I don't know his name. I'm sorry. I saw someone else play Scorn at an event and go 5-0 with it, playing Aberration Nostilla, which is something I'd been kind of messing with. And I was like, that was the push I needed to just be like, all right, well, let's go. The reason I like it so much is generally most casters, as the game falls off, they need some form of inevitability. And a lot for many casters, that comes in the term of a good personal output. So stuff like Kane and stuff like Tyrus and these casters that on their own will just remove stuff. And like when there's few models on the board, they can do stuff themselves. And Makeda doesn't really have that. She's like speed 6. She has a good melee, but she doesn't have Pathfinder. She 1-inch melee. She doesn't really get there. She's up to 11 with dash.
And she doesn't even it's not necessarily the best use of her fury either.
Yeah, it's all these things, but where her value comes in inevitability is as the number of models in a game dwindles, as both players start to run out of attacks, run out of models, the number of attacks go down, which means when I am Stay Deathing, like let's say 4 models a turn, the proportion of that, like when you have 12 attacks a turn versus 6 attacks a turn, becomes way more impactful. And so as the game goes on, Makeda, unlike most casters, actually gets stronger. She reaches a point where you just cannot really overcome the disparity, where she just is able to grind out so hard. And so Nostilla, with Revive, giving me access to Revive in this list, kind of just adds another layer of that to give me an even better chance to grind. So as the game goes on to later turns, you just get to do some really impressive things, along with some other fun plays you get to do. A play I'd been messing with for a while. A lot of people who are familiar with Scorn are aware of the cats. The cats have unpredictable movement, and they have reposition 3. So what you get to do is you get to walk a cat to somewhere in the middle of the board generally, place another cat 4 inches ahead of that. So it's really like the back of its base is 4 inches ahead. It's a 50 mil, which is like roughly 2 inches. So it's really like 6 inches. Like the front of its base is 6 inches away from the front of the first cat's base. And that gets to repo 3. So you get to like slingshot a cat 9 inches forward and then slingshot your other cats way back. So you get to contest. They remove that cat. You just get to revive it and do it again. And you just lock people in this like attrition game of every turn. I just have this free cat that doesn't have to really invest anything to just contest every turn for the rest of the game. As well as they complement the main thing that makes this list and really the army work, which is the Karax, which we talked about, but they are pretty nuts. They are they used to be 6 points. They are now 5 points, making them one of the cheapest units in the game. 5 points for 5 guys. They are 13 15s with shield walls. They're really 13 17s. They have set defense, so they're +2 defense on charges. You play them in an army with deflection, which is +2 defense against guns. You play them in an army with Force Aura, which is the animus of the Kriya, which gives them +2 defense and armor against guns. They have Girded, so you can't really blast them off the table, and you can give them tough pretty trivially with the Mortarthurge Willbreakers. It just is a range 6 called Flesh Hardening. Just give a unit tough. And they threat 12 inches with Dash and 15 inches with Vengeance. So they are a unit that I just get to put wherever I want. I say, if you come for these, you can't really kill them. There's not really a 5-point unit that trades efficiently with them. If you shoot them, they put 15 inches. They're going to come for you. I get to sit on objectives for basically no cost. They generally require way more investment than they normally do. Plus, when you mix them with Stay Death and Tough, you end up having to invest either multiple units or like a heavy. These guys can just sit next to Invictus and basically fog Invictus for a turn for 5 points Stay Death. And it gives an army that basically has no output, like offensive output, a way to just sit on objectives and contest and be basically impossible to remove for some armies and some lists.
Right. It's essentially an army composed entirely of time bandits. Like, it's going to steal your time. It was bad last year when the norm was mat 7. And now that the norm is mat 6, none of these defense values have come down from 13. And they maintain all these ludicrous survivability advantages, like tough Karax or tough no knockdown Karax, def 15 against charges, arm 7, and on and on and on. And particularly the cats, which have boxes, which have good base defensive values,
Girded if they're next to a Karax, blast resist.
Yeah. And you can say to your opponent, oh, by the way, your first 3 or 4 attacks that kill one of these guys don't count. It's the underlying math takes like the lethality curve of the game and snaps it over its knee. And and then beyond that, there are defensive tools that actually require some pretty specialized opposition to beat. At least one of the factions you played against on the weekend had those specific specialized advantages. So we can talk about it when we get
I imagine we'll get to that. But
Brandon, any commentary on Army of the Western Reaches and thoughts? Is this a metagame threat that's here to stay?
I think Nick has a very good grasp of what the list does, as I would expect, and I think his summary is it's very accurate. Like, it's a list that is very hard to remove, but doesn't have a lot of output when armor values matter. I think that there are going to be a lot of lists where the armor values don't matter. And I had to deal with some internet issues for a minute, so I'm not sure if you talked about it, but the accuracy that Makeda brings is massive in those matchups. And the threat range, like Ferox threading like a minimum of 17 inches to walk and put cats onto somebody's caster or support pieces or whatever it might be with boosted attack rolls and several attacks. Means that there can be a lot of matchups where if your opponent doesn't have a lot of high arm, but like say a whole bunch of like def or arm 13 to 15 guys, maybe with some boxes, you have plenty of output there. And some of these modules are so incredibly cheap. Like Karax at 5 points is a ridiculous value when you don't need them to kill anything. Or maybe you need them to kill one model per unit. It's still an amazing value because they're so sturdy themselves. Like with the literal... they don't have sturdy, but they're steady. They can get tough and be steady. They're def 15 against ranged and charges, right? Because they have set defense. Like they're hard to remove unless you have specialized tools. And so in a lot of games on the scenario packet, you don't necessarily need to be able to kill things all over the board in order to win. And I think you've been winning games by flexing that ability with this list. And is it going to be a meta terrorist? I don't know. Is it going to be a list that a lot of people are going to lose to if they're not prepared? Absolutely. Partially just on the sheer volume of models that you have. But I've seen people play against this list and they lose because they can't avoid being choked out on scenario because they get swamped with models that they don't have the stat lines and volume to remove. So I think it's got real power.
Yeah. Talking about the not being able to kill stuff, actually, this is kind of funny. I had checked going into day 2 what my breakers were, just like out of curiosity, because I was the lowest rated 3-0 going into day 2. And I was looking at my breakers, and I think I had like the lowest model destroyed points in the entire tournament. And I was like, and I had like barely like any control points just because I got so ahead so fast. I was like, if I lose a single game, I don't even think I'm top 3. Like, it doesn't matter really how well I do. I'm like, I have to win out in order to even podium. I think I went into day 2 with a total of 40 army destroyed points. I think 30 of them were from one game. So you cannot kill anything. And I imagine that will make the army a bit of a detractor for a lot of people because it is really fun to remove models, and it is also really fun to assassinate people, which this army can struggle to do. Like if you get anything onto a caster, it can remove it basically, but generally that's not your game plan. So I imagine a lot of people won't want to play it just because of its playstyle, but I do think it is a very real army. I do think it's a very powerful army for the people who do enjoy this kind of playstyle.
We're talking about playstyle with when you did initial pairing, you started with Zadesh. Tell us about what you discovered when you opened your army bag when you got to San Diego and how that may have informed some of your decisions.
So going into round 1, I opened my bag just to like double check all my models because I hadn't done that since I got there. And I was going through and I just did like a tally of all of my models, and I was going through, and in my Zadesh list, I get to near the bottom of the page, like one of the last models I'm checking. And I have in my list, I have a unit of Citrati, Cataphract Citrati, which are little dudes with like shields and like little spears. And I pull up the model, and it is definitely a guy with like a big harpoon, which is a completely different model. And I was like, oh no, those are not the same number of points. I don't have an alternative that really works. And so I was like, I'm like, I don't have legally the models to play this because the scopes look kind of similar. And I was like, well, that is really unfortunate. That means I really only have one list this weekend. And so that was the thing I just kept in the back of my mind when I went into every round. I was like, is this a game where I would rather have played Zadesh? And thankfully, I think I played at least 4 of my 5 rounds. I think I would have preferred playing Makeda. But it was like a thing that I was really, really anxious about because I was like, man, I literally basically have to secretly Iron Man this event because I don't have the models for one of them. And it was already round 1 had already started by the time I noticed. I'm like, I don't want to. I was like, I can't tell Brandon. I can't do it. Like that would be so awkward. It would feel so bad. But no. So I was like, it's fine. I'll play Makeda. Makeda's still like a good enough generalist. She has like her bad matchups, which we'll get to later. But everything was mostly fine.
So speaking of matchups, you started round 1 against Alice from Los Angeles, and he dropped of a Gravedigger's pair of
Vargas.
Roscoe and Vargas. It says on here Roscoe. Did he actually drop Vargas into you?
No, he did play Roscoe. Yeah, his pair was Roscoe Vargas. I expected him to play Vargas, but he ended up playing Roscoe. Going into this event. I do not really have many reps into Gravediggers. I have like 3 games total. 1 was against Brandon Owens and 2 was against my local who plays Gravediggers. Neither of them were none of those games were into either of those casters. So I'm like, I know what they did last year. which is not what they do anymore. I actually had no idea what Roscoe does, so I was kind of just flying by the seat of my pants, just reading what she did as we were going along. But I was like, it's a gun army. Makeda's probably fine. I was like, Gravediggers generally, I think Makeda's better. So that was my drop, was Makeda into Roscoe, and I was like, he might know something I don't, because I don't know what Roscoe does. So we played a really good game. I believe I was on the play. He won the die roll. He chose to go second. I was forced to go first.
Yep, and this is on fault lines, which is as far as scoring goes, a very aggressive scenario in terms of points. But even if you don't get first crack of scoring, your crack back at points can be like just as crazily wild swingy.
I'm going to interject here for a second. I didn't see this game at all. I haven't heard about what happened. All I know is obviously you won. Going first, I think, is probably advantageous for Makeda in this matchup on this scenario, because you can take up so much board space on the first turn that I can easily foresee a situation where you literally just jam models into your opponent's army and prevent them from even scoring on their bottom of 2 if they don't have the tools for it. I'm not sure that Sin does have the tools to make that work out in her favor. So that's my guess or prediction, having not seen this, how that worked out for you. So now you get to tell us what actually happened.
Alternatively, as a counter hypothesis, Makeda seems supremely well suited to just like play cautious and say, no, you stand on it, and then like let you score your 5-6 points. Probably more realistically 4, because Makeda will have a position where she's standing to contest on close objectives and say, nah, dog, not today. And then you flood the zone and say, okay, I'm going to kill your token contesters, you wussy gunline army. And then I'm going to jam you with things that that I'm going to stay death on that you can't actually remove. And I'm going to score my 6 to your like 3 or 4. And say, okay, try your best.
Take it easy, Alex. You're talking about my boys over here.
Nobody refers to Roscoe so affectionately.
True. But the people working for her, it's not their fault that she's their boss.
It's not their fault. They lose to no you stand on it melee attrition armies. Okay, so which one of us nailed it here?
It's actually a little bit of both are correct. I actually talked about this a bit with, I think, Tyrant Ike. I don't remember exactly who it was.
Eric Eicherman,
Eric Eicherman, and Makeda gets a lot of stock out of playing first or second. I think a lot of casters in this game have a preferred, like, I really would like to go first, I'd really like to go second, depending on what the army, whatever it does. However, with how Makeda is able to play, you get to kind of choose between playing really, really fast and aggressive, or playing really cagey and slow and grindy. You kind of can afford to play either way. So I got to go first, which, like Brandon Owen said, I basically just got to run up models onto his deep objectives. I could get cats like basically all the way almost to his. You have to it's funny when you play it, Scorn, you have to measure to make sure that they can't charge you on their bottom of 1, because you can go so far up the board. You have to make sure that you're not just getting charged out of nowhere. So I got to play basically all the way up his board, already in charge threat of his, or already engaged, able to charge his deployment line at bottom of 1. So he was kind of forced to take some action. He really couldn't afford to, because generally the advantage to second player is you can force your opponents to step onto the objectives. I was not going to afford him that, because I was going to force him to either not leave your deployment zone, or I will just remove a bunch of your models. So I run way up the board. He's kind of forced to shoot at me. Trigger, he didn't get that much, because a lot of my regular small base models don't go quite as far. But he was able to shoot one of my Caraxes off the table that I didn't stay death, and I shot a few of my Keltari. I think he killed 2 of them, and then I stayed off the rest. So triggers vengeance on both of those units. I was able to. He had both of his. I think he had all three of his heavies kind of positioned in the center of the board, standing on the 50s. Or I believe it was a 50. I don't remember exactly. Whatever the middle objective was. I believe he had both of his Valiants and Plugger both on the 50 in the middle of the board. I was able to charge them with the Legends of Halak, who actually were also damaged. I forgot about that. So they also got a Vengeance trigger. None of them died because of stay death, but they did get a Vengeance trigger. I was able to.
Oh God, that's obnoxious. It didn't even occur to me that they get vengeance. That's preposterous.
Yes. Yeah, you get them vengeance. You get to stay death them on a already very difficult to remove units, which is another. I didn't touch on it, but the Legend of Halak are definitely one of the main reasons to play this army. They're just like the cheapest A team in the game, and they just do so much for their points.
Defensive line and shield wall on that unit.
And shield
Why
wall.
do they have both? I don't know.
They were.
They did have their defense. They did have their defense nerfed this year. Thank God.
Yeah, they were just 14 baseline last year. Now they're 13. Yep. So they're realistically 15, 17 before any buffs anytime you go into them.
Yeah. Yep. They're
steady.
Double steady. Yep. They're crazy. I was able to charge his 50s in the middle, or charge his heavies. I was able to smite one of the heavies with Jadeth into his gun mages. So I was able to kill two of his gun mages by just smiting a heavy into them.
I like
crippled most of one heavy. And then I just kind of ran the Keltari onto it. Because cool thing about Plugger is he has killing spree, but if you stay death killing spree over and over again, then he can't really do anything about it. And decap works on tough, but does not work on stay death. It mentions specifically tough, so you can kind of just fog Plugger, which is really big in that matchup. And then I was able to just like push super far up the board on the left. I was able to kill a bunch of his gun mages and repo my cats into Roscoe. I was able to, on the other side of the board, give my cats guidance to see through the Rowdy's clouds and kill like two of the Rowdies and two of the Black 13th. And I just kind of like was able to stand on every objective. I was in range to stay death my guys in the middle of the board. I had my Karak standing on two 40s on the left side of the board that he couldn't really stop me from scoring. So I passed it over to him. He is able to. So he rolled very unfortunate, which did not help. It definitely made it another step worse. But he had two heavy activations that could not kill through stay death and tough and high defense. Could not kill three Karaks and the Legends of Halak. He killed a total of two heavy activations. He killed one Karax model. He could not roll a 7 to save his life. It was really unfortunate. He just could not hit them. So he invested like 30 points of models to kill like 1.25 point of my army. And I'm still standing on his 50 mil. And then he, with one Rowdy and one Black 13th, he just did not have the means to take me off of his 40s. And he was able to charge my Karax with 3 of his, I think it was his commandos, which was all that was left after the first turn. But he accidentally forgot to deploy a heavy crate to put a jack to contest my 40s. And so with all of his models activating, I was still scoring a 50 in the middle on my side, my 40, and then his 40, or like the 40 on, I think it was a 40 on my side in like further towards him. And I was able to go up 3-0 on bottom of 2. So
I was right.
Yep. He just could not take me off of it. Yeah. So bottom of 2, we got there. But
muted,
yeah,
Alex.
it was an awesome game.
I was gonna say Brandon called it. Next round, you actually had my round 1 opponent, the legendary TO and painter and terrain and accessory manufacturer, Mr. Tyson Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Tyson's
Alex,
been.
Sorry, just quick aside. having Tyson, who of LVO fame, SoCal Open fame, Kingdom Con fame, like he's been involved in organizing and running so many major tournaments consistently over the years. If you've ever gone to LVO or seen photos or videos from it, or even this year at Adepticon, he's the guy who makes these gorgeous, absolute gorgeous display board tables that you can actually play on. So Tyson has been obviously an inspiration amongst a few others. Yeah, he made the trophies for all the Iron Gauntlet winners.
Yep.
So I was super honored and happy to be able to run an event that he got to play at, because that man never gets to play at events because he's always running
for a
them.
change. Yeah.
So it was super cool to be able to just watch him play in a competitive tournament for a change. So
it was funny for me too, like in the same respect, sitting down to a game with Tyson and thinking, is this the first time we've ever played each other? I think it is. It's like, we've known each other for 14 years, and this is the first time we've ever actually played a game.
Yeah, you sit down to play, you expect him to make a judge call and then walk off, and he sits down and deploys the model. It's like, what's happening right now? This can't be right.
Yeah, so Tyson's been repping the Kith Guard.
Yep.
I made some substantial strategic errors in that round one, and Tyson spanked me appropriately. And you move on to your round two on the stream table.
The game is
Tyson
streamed.
coach. The matchup comes down actually on both your guys' sides. It's basically a matchup of obligation. So we have Makeda versus Malice Rotmorn. Tyson had a Tarja list, but he had confided in some people that he's never played any games with Tarja, and he wasn't sure if he was actually ready to figure her out on the fly. So it comes down a game of obligation, Makeda versus Rotmorn. You guys are playing on two fronts. Just real quickly, talk us through the game.
So I was playing in the Kith Guard. I've never actually played in the Kith Guard before. It's my first time. However, I am very familiar with what the rules do. I've read them many times. I've had a lot of discussions and talk machines about them.
I love that term. I think I'm going to have to borrow that. Just call it talk machine.
Yeah. We sometimes don't want to walk, so we call it talk machine. But so I'm very familiar with what they do, and I think even if he can play Tarja, I think it's an interesting choice. But I kind of expected Rotmorn. Because I didn't know he was not intending to play the other list yet. So I was expecting Rotmorn, and going into it, I still was like trying to like think as though I had two lists, even though I didn't. Just be like post game, like what could I do better? I thought to play Makeda. Generally, both of his lists were pretty beast heavy. They both played like three beasts and a light, or something, three heavies and a light. Which the more heavies, the better for Makeda. And also, my main reason is his lists were kind of not gun heavy, but they had a lot of shooting. And Rotmorn's feat makes my line of sight reduced to 8 inches. And with Vengeance, with me getting to move 3 at the start of my turn and then having 8 inches measured from there, it means that my line of sight is really reduced to 11 inches with Vengeance. Which at 11 inches, I'm starting to break point, like match him or be faster than him again. So it made his feet not matter as much. So that was, I still think even if I had Zadesh, I probably would have played Makeda in that matchup. I believe, who went first? He went first. He was on the play. He deployed his army. He had Scrappers and Ambush. I deployed my army. We off to the races. He moves up his stuff. If you watch the stream, he deploys very, because he doesn't have as many models, he deploys very heavy to the center. He really doesn't have the quantity of models because he's playing like 3 heavies. He's playing a light, I believe. He's playing Magnus Invictus. So he really doesn't have.
I think he has at least one jungle troll in there with a momentum cannon.
So he had really not a high quality quantity of the models, which is like
Right.
Makeda loves that. That is what
Right.
Makeda loves to see.
And he's
I
not
would-
he's not running a lot in ambush that can't be jammed either.
Yeah, the only thing he had in ambush was the unit of scrappers.
Mhm.
The reason Makeda likes seeing more models is, more cohort models is generally the trade-off for a cohort model is you have a higher quality of attack for harder to remove models, but generally a lower quantity of attack. And the quality of attack doesn't really matter if I just stay death it anyway. You can do infinite damage,
Right. And it doesn't matter if they're 1 point apiece, like set defense girded dorks
Yeah,
either.
exactly. So I saw a bunch of cohort models. I figured he might struggle to play the scenario, and I was like, well, we're gonna just try to run away on scenario again. If you watch the stream, I deployed cats very wide. There was a obstruction on my left, so the one nearest the camera, if you're watching, that he basically had no model on the outside of. So I was able to just like walk forward, slingshot a cat forward, repo into the 30 on the other side of the objective. So he literally couldn't do anything unless he either deployed the scrappers there or took a heavy and like slingshotted it around, and which means
Right.
Rotmore would have to move way to the center of the board, or like way to like the side of the board, which he really didn't want to do. So I figured if you watch the stream, the cat just sits there and doesn't move the entire game. It moves up top of bottom of one and doesn't move a single time. And I just move up a bunch. I deploy my other cats to the other side, and I say the scrappers have to take 1, but the scrappers have sneak attacks. So if you deploy, if when they ambush, if you're within 5 inches of them, they get +2 hit and damage. I was like, well, he's going to deploy to one of the sides probably. He can deploy to the center, but he gets a lot less value out of deploying to the center. He kind of needs to fight me on the flanks. So I put one cat within like 10 inches of the sides or whatever it is, because I think deploy 5 inches instead of 3 inches. So outside of, I put 1 on each flank within sneak attack range, and then 2 outside of it. So no matter what, he would be not getting full value out of it. And then with deflection, defense 15 against his rat 6 if he doesn't get sneak attack. So I'm like, the odds of him actually killing 2 cats without sneak attack are very low.
Right. Even if he hits you, he's dice -3, so likely to leave them alive, and then like not likely to hit in the first place.
Yep. Yeah, and what they're 14, so you're off 3. Like need like 8s, which is like not impossible. Like it's still like not like super unlikely, but is not average to happen.
At some point during this game, we got to answer the fun question: if one guy's engaged, but one guy gets to charge, does everybody get assault shots?
Yes, and the answer is yes, they do. So I have a hill on my side because I'm second. So I have my 2 objectives and my flag. So I know if the game goes long, we just keep grinding. Eventually, I'll just win on scenario. He has to come to me.
Yeah, because you're taking that center objective.
Yeah, otherwise I'm reaching parity. Round 2, the stream table missed it. If you listen to the stream, they didn't hear him. He did feet. He did feet on top of 2. So I was fighting through a feat. He goes up, he shoots a bunch of stuff. He tries to cast a important spell on redeem and misses. Channeled through a trapdoor, didn't even know the trapdoor, it's a blind redeem. And I was playing super safe with Makeda. Makeda was like way back. He didn't have the quantity of attacks, so I didn't really need to revive or stay death as much because he doesn't have the quantity of attacks even without stay death to remove all of my models generally. He moves up. He kills a couple things. He kills a Karax on my left flank, the one nearest the camera if you're watching. And then he jams the tunnel rats kind of in the middle of the board to just kind of be contesting pieces. And then he passes over to me. I get my vengeance trigger. I get to move my Karax forward. Now they're with a native Bugatti bomb, not Bugatti bomb, Magabaza. And I am able to keep contesting his 40 or his 50. I am scoring my 50. I'm scoring my flag. I'm scoring my 40. So like going into the next round, I know I'm going to be way up on points, so I'm allowed to take it a little more balls to the walls kind of. I dash and I walk the Karax just to contest his 40. I kill one of his little contesting models. He was able to kill one of my cats with the scrappers on the 40 side of the table, which is the far side if you're watching the stream. I'm able to kill one of them and like put a lot of damage on the other one with the 2 remaining Feroxes, and then they just Reaper to keep scoring the 40. And then I charge Maga Baza on the left side. He enlivens his heavy forward because there was nothing else on the side of the table that could see it. I get a cheeky play where I'm able to charge the Legends of Halak, charge Sidar towards kind of the middle of the board, to charge a Tunnel Rat, put Jadeth behind him, behind his heavy. I don't remember what it's called. Clanger. I think it's Clanger. And I get to smite him out of his control range, which at that point, even if I can't remove it, it just kind of loses its activation, and I'm up a heavy kind of for the next turn. But I end up spiking really hard on my roll with Redeem. He is an armor-piercing PAL 15 with Storm Rager, so him at armor 12 after the fact. I'm dice plus 2. I rolled a 15. I did 18 damage to, I think, like exact C's Clanger. So I ended up killing it. But even if I didn't kill it, I was basically up a heavy. So going into the round, and so I was pretty happy.
Right.
And then we
yeah. You're essentially in a position. You're essentially in a position of inevitability, like where you've got control of the central flag. He doesn't have consistent access to his own objectives. So like you're sort of just walking him down over time.
Yeah, and another thing about the matchup is he's playing Invictus with Rotmorn, who has Hunter's Mark, which, if you didn't know, Hunter's Mark is a friendly model, not friendly faction model. So Invictus gets it, which means he, instead of threatening 13, threats 15, which is really fast, is the scientific term, I think. And so I'm like, I have nothing that I can put there to kill Invictus. So I kind of just have to like put models in between Invictus and Aberration and be like, well, you're never going to get through these because of Stay Death, which is a cool thing you get to do with Aberration, is like he's really bad at delivering himself generally. But if you just say, here are models in front of him that you cannot remove, I will make sure you cannot remove them. He has like a bubble. He has a little shield, which is kind of what I was doing in the like bottom of 2. I was kind of just playing tug of war with him in our heavies. But so when we go into...
That's kind of a rare inversion of roles, because usually Aberration's biggest value add is that he stands somewhere and exists convincingly. You know, almost nobody ever leans into him for his offense or his utility. It's mostly his ability to just stand places and not go anywhere. And it's actually a really funny archetype inversion that instead you have Aberration being mainly an offense piece and counting on other models to exist convincingly in front of him.
Yeah, I figured I needed some model that can kill stuff. Like even for an army that's really good at jamming, I still need to be able to remove something.
Right,
like
and you get the added
stuff.
bonus as opposed to like an Invictus or a Big Pig of it also comes with recursion. And he hits well enough, and like you're not overly worried about his speed or his threat range because he will connect at some point.
Yeah, he is, and also he comes with Nostilla, who is one of the best models in my army. So that helps too. He just is an awesome piece because like other than him and Redeem, I really cannot crack armor. But as seen to the weekend, I didn't really need to. So going to scoring,
right. Except for maybe one game.
Except for one game, which that was a grinder. So bottom of 2, I score 3-0 through his feet turn. I've killed Maga Baza. I've killed a heavy. I've killed some of his models, some of his engaging models on his 40. I've killed one of the scrappers, and I'm engaging another one. We go into bottom of 3. He charges with his unengaged scrapper, and then we go, because one of them is engaged, one is not. We go, wait, they have ambush, or they have assault. Do they get to assault? The answer is yes. After a long judge call, they do get to both assaults, even if one started engaged. So they end up killing my 2 Ferox, but they're not in range to score my 40. And he has basically nothing else to put into range of my 40. He, with his 2 remaining little shaman guys, plus Stormcraw, he is not able to kill my Karax unit that is contesting his 40. Without investing in Invictus, he has nothing else that can stop them. He has nothing that can stop me from contesting his 50 with my Ferox, and then he just cannot take me off of my flag or my my 50. And so he goes for an assassination line that kind of just can't pay out. He does the math on it. Makeda's defense 19 against guns and armor 18. Like it just doesn't work out. And he ends up clocking us scoring 5-0 in round 2.
All right. Yeah, that's it sounds it's not necessarily late in terms of turn, but there was a lot of game that happened up to that point.
Yeah.
As for me, I hit Ryan Chiraboga, friend of the show, he of great spell rack fame. This was Boggity Bomb versus Sirafel double colossal, and Ryan was spanking the pants off me. I happened to get an early scenario lead. I missed some opportunity to get a greater scenario lead than I actually wound up with. Fortunately for me, Ryan goes into top of 3, continues spanking the pants off me on attrition, and then forgets to contest. He's like activating his models. And he like looks down and he's like, well, that's the end of the turn. I think I lose. I'm like, huh? Oh, okay. That's nice. Interesting game. Definitely gave me a lot to think about and really just glom on to some of the micro of my play. Round 3, we hit payload. I'll just summarize mine real quick. I played new trolls into old trolls, and there's no matchup of troll v troll where old trolls comes out on top against new trolls.
Unfortunately,
Ed,
no.
Yeah, Ed, wonderful guy, really like him. Super sweet opponent, but it's written in the stars. It ain't happening. You were playing against also more legacy stuff, so you were up against Cameron's Durgan list, and the scenario was payload. Tell us about how that went.
Got some rule guard action. I was playing
you found like one of 3 rule guard players, an endangered species, one of 3 that still exists in the wild.
This is funny. I actually do also in my past in my free time like playing dwarves, so I'm very familiar with what that army does actually. His pair was Mad Hammer and Ostrom. And I, going into the list chicken, I was like, oh god, he's gonna play Ostrom. It's going to suck. He's going to be armor 23. He's going to be
arm 23.
I can't kill arm 23.
Yeah, you barely kill arm 20. Let's be honest.
Oh, I couldn't. I was like, but the thing about Bogard playing them a lot, something they struggle with is they do not have quantity of attacks. They as it being a legacy army, a lot of legacy armies struggle with not having a quantity of attacks. So I'm like, well, he can't really kill me.
They're also not incidentally combined arms armies in the way a lot of Mark IV armies are. And being combined arms comes bundled with like a lot of ability to make attacks in different circumstances. Rule Guard doesn't have this. Another thing they don't have is accuracy, especially in the face of ranged defense buffs.
Correct. Yeah, they are mostly rat 5 or 6 if you're lucky. They can aim, but rat 8 into defense 17 or 19 does not really work out, unfortunately. There's no way to make that higher unless you're playing.
You didn't see Osram, so you're not seeing fire for effect either.
Well, he ended up playing Mad Hammer. He was not super experienced with the matchup. He has played into I believe it was like Xerxes double Makeda or double Mammoth was basically his only frame of reference for what Storm does. So it's a bit skewed.
That's a wild frame of reference. That's so dissonant.
Yes, he just figured he needed something to do damage, and damage is not really the issue with my Makeda list. And so I was like, okay, well, all of my Karaks are girded, so I'm like, well, I basically offset his feet. His feet gives him +2 to hit. It offsets deflection. I'm like, well, now we're just at parity, and I think my army's probably better than his at parity. I just have so many more models, and he doesn't have the quantity of attacks to remove me. And another thing dwarves struggle with is they're like a elite army, basically, kind of. So they don't play that many models. Their models are like their power is mostly in their jacks. Their jacks are pretty good. They're pretty efficient, but other than your jacks and like a select couple units, the army struggles. The good units and the good models are really good, and the ones that are not are very bad, unfortunately. As a rule guard player, that is my biggest complaint about them. So I am able to, I think I go first. I'm able to just like play super far forward. He's forced to shoot at me a bunch. I get the vengeance. This was also the pair down. So I was playing into
Right.
the pair down.
So if you lose here, we're going short.
Yeah, we're going short. There is he just struggles with a quantity of attacks issue. Eventually he's forced to get aberration active on the left, like my left side of the board. He's forced to basically put it in range of my aberration and try to like finagle it around the 50, but there's just no good way to do it. He needs some way to contest it, or else he just loses the game. And the only model he had was basically just aberration, because what was it? It was top of 2. I was able to the cats have a 17-inch walking threat. I was able to walk into his artillery, which was the only other model he had that can contest. So he was forced to put his aberration on the objective to not just immediately lose, and my aberration was able to kill his aberration. And from there, Rule Guard doesn't really have models that are able to kill aberration, and so I was able to grind out the game. He couldn't really remove aberration anymore. I had a model that could actually kill heavies, that could just kind of stand wherever he wanted. And from there, I just kind of was able to up scenario, keep contesting with cats. He can't get to... Another problem with Rule Guard, if you're not playing Nostrum, they're really slow, so they can never get to my side of the board to touch any of my objectives. And I'm really fast. Right. I'm able to contest the objective all game. So effectively, like every other he's only allowed to score every other turn, and I'm scoring 3 points every turn for free. And he's really... It's a pretty grim matchup, unfortunately.
Well, this is how you know, because you know, Army of the Western Reaches is quite fast, but this is how you know, like, okay, what distinguishes the winners from the losers in the untouched legacy factions? Like, if I'm totally honest, Army of the Western Reaches is basically the only winner that's still alive. But like, drastic difference with Rule Guard is payload is a centralized scenario. It is one of the most central scenarios, especially the second the 50s start moving. Almost everything is clustered in the middle, and it's clustered so tight in the middle. If your army is too slow to meaningfully interact with rear scenario elements and payload, there's literally nothing that can be done for this army. You're playing the memes, like, it's not competitive.
I don't think Rule Guard is bad, but Durgan is
my favorite caster. I do.
Before I say anything bad, Durgan is my favorite caster in the army. No hate to Durgan, but he struggles, especially as a gunline caster. I am really good into gunlines. I'm really good at standing on objectives. He just could not remove me. He just didn't really have the means anywhere in his list to do it.
I know this natural predator for sure. Yeah,
because like his feat offsets my girded, so like he's blast 8 on most of his stuff into my armor 17, basically everything, like infantry wise.
Right. He needs to roll 10s to actually kill single wound 1 point.
Kill my 1 point models, that I have stay death and tough on. So it was just not really it was a pretty grim matchup. There are a couple legacy armies that I don't think Army of Western Reaches is the only one, but the other ones are more obvious, I think. So stuff like Grimkin and Infernals are still real, but I don't think
note the qualifier untouched. Grimkin, Infernals, I'm totally happy to count those as like full-on prime armies.
They're basically
prime death of the spell rack,
and I think Rule Guard does have legs. It's just, like I said, the models that are good are really good. They do have some crazy models. Their artillery are absurd for 4 points, but their models that are bad.
They're forced to diversify for scenario's sake, and the things they're forced to take, some of them are not so good.
Hoping the solo that they get is good. We'll see.
I don't know. It's a faction saver. Let's talk about round 4. So as Brandon said, we split into 3 rounds and 2 rounds to give this this leisurely camaraderie environment. Round 4 it's actually kind of funny because we basically trade dance partners in one respect, literally.
Yep.
So I'm playing against my good friend Rusty Quinlan running King and Nothing. We were talking on day one, and he said, "Boy, I sure don't want to hit Fire Quill." We play the first round on Sunday. Like, sorry, buddy, you're hitting Fire Quill.
Yep.
That game didn't go well for him, but we did some dojo out in the parking lot, and we think we've fixed the Grimkin problem with guns. You play King of Nothing in the next round, but this round you're playing Mr. Phil Howell, who I am playing in the next round. He's running Tyrus, and I think he's Iron Manning Tyrus all weekend. So we've got Tyrus versus Makeda on Trench Warfare.
Did it get reported wrong? Does it say Tyrus?
Did he actually play the other one?
He played Moraine into me. Yeah, actually.
Oh shit. Okay, yeah, it says he played Tyrus. Yeah. I guess he did Iron Man Tyrus. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so day one, after day one, there's 4 undefeated. So it's me. It is Phil on Dusk. It is a Chimera player who I don't remember his name. I'm sorry. And Sterling on Grimkin. And
Chimera player. That's Aaron Allen. Finished second place.
Yep.
He used to be. This was before your time by a little bit. But when people would say, "What's good in Convergence in the metagame?" it was, "What is Aaron Allen playing?" Because he's literally Convergence in the metagame. So he was like the decade-long king of cock, and now he's on to Robo Dragons.
Robo Dragons, yeah. So day one, or like after day one, I was like preparing for all my matchups. I was like, oh, I was like, he's played only Tyrus so far. I imagine he's didn't think about the matchup very much, which is kind of on me. I was like, he's Iron Manning Tyrus. Let's be prepared for Tyrus. So expecting Tyrus, I'm like, I can't play Zadesh again because that is a stranglehold caster, and I have 3 120 mil bases, and he will stranglehold my Mammoth the whole game, and I will not be allowed to do anything. I will have no autonomy over the center of the board.
I have a funny story for you about that later, about how that goes down.
And yeah, so I expect Tyrus because that's what we've been playing. But he ends up dropping Moraine, which thinking about it afterwards and talking with him afterwards actually makes more sense because Moraine is a mortality caster. And mortality shuts off Stata, it shuts off Tough. It makes my guys reasonable to hit again. So it makes my inflated stats abilities not inflated anymore. It makes my guys like pretty terrible, like pretty limp. So he goes first. He gets the option to go first, which Dusk is an army that when they go first, it can be really, really tough because they just get to move. They have the same benefit Scorn does, where they're so fast they just get to claim like the entire center of the board. And I'm like, no matter where I go, he's going to charge me next turn. His Mage Hunter's threat 15. Like I'm just gonna have to accept the fact that like they may get onto Makeda, so I have to prepare for that. I have to be like, he has 2 units of cats that like are going to charge me. I'm like, well. This is where Scorn gets really. I'm like, this is thankfully. This is a game I was really thankful I was playing Scorn because one thing Scorn is really, really good at is piece trading. We are the best in the biz at trading bad models for good models. So
and look at me, I brought all these bad models today's bargain sale.
I play 3 walls since I'm going second. I get to use all 3 walls. So I'm like, I get to just kind of deploy these, so he can't really shoot me off the table. Since I'm second, the objectives are skewed towards me a little bit more. And I get to basically just run some pretty crummy models up. Oh, also another thing. Someone, I think it was, who was it? Someone in the, someone mentioned earlier, they were talking about is Magnus and it was Jay Beatnik mentioned is Magnus Invictus better for Dusk than holy cow, what is the new robot man? The one we were just talking about earlier.
Imperatus, yeah.
Imperatus. A thing that I noticed at this event, it was not as much Magnus Invictus. It was a lot of Aberration Nostilla, which I was not expecting, but thinking about it after the fact made a lot of sense. Nostilla gives armies that generally don't have an ability to play into guns that pay, like Aberration and Nostilla. Revive gives you a lot of play into grindy gun matchups, and Aberration is pretty comfortable with getting shot at a little bit here and there with hyper aggressive.
He just stands there and like, you're just giving me focus for like a couple of points, okay?
So there was a lot of a ton of Aberration Nostilla, and this is where he played it. So that's just a thing I noticed in this game that applied to most of the event. But the way the board is set up, there's a 50 that is basically like exactly 3 inches away from this big like silo looking objective. That's like on the other side of my 50 from me. So like kind of in between my opponent and the 50. And he only has 2 cohort models. He has a random arc node, which I was able to scalpel out pretty early, and then Invictive or Aberration. So I'm like, he can never score this thing, because if Aberration ever like tries to threaten me with a charge, my Aberration with a charge, I'm able to just like scooch so he can't charge me through the silo. And if he ever tries to touch it, he will for sure be in range of my Aberration, and then I just kill it, and then I win the game. So he, with how the table was set up, I think he might have, I don't know if he chose wrong table side or not, but I was like, I have this 50. He cannot touch this. He cannot stop me. He cannot ever score this. And in the same vein, it was right next to the flag. I'm like, I have these 2 objectives that I can just put Aberration and Nostilla on, and he cannot do anything about these without just like constantly throwing models into Aberration's face.
Right.
I playing that far forward as Dusk is a very all-in play. So I was like, okay, I'll match his all-in play with just basically putting like a unit of Karax here, unit of Keltari here. I have Stay Death, so I'm like, you are forced to invest. Like the Mage Hunter Assassins basically couldn't do anything because they're mat 7 into 15, so I think they missed 2 of their 3 attacks. He was able to mortality a unit of Keltari and Karax to stop me from Stay Deathing them, which was really big. I didn't think about that before the matchup, but Moraine definitely makes a lot of sense in the Makeda. So that was my opponent, definitely outbrained me there. But even
there's an interesting thing there though, because you're sort of talking about, an unstoppable force into an immovable object. And like, Moraine can flummox some of your technology, but every time she wants to do it, she has to pay through the nose for the privilege. So like, if you're just mapping out the economy of like of resource spent turn over turn to, have your shtick come off, like, never mind the bargain basement price of Keltari, you're looking at the cost of mortality and you're saying, like,
and he has to boost mortality.
You're only creating localized advantage. You're never creating absolute advantage. I'm comfortable with this because even being able to have localized advantage requires this immense resource spend.
Yeah. So and also I have 3 walls, and deflection does also work on arcane attacks. So my guys are still defense 19. He still needs to hit a 12 to hit me with mortality. So he has Sapper. I'm just going to play really far forward up the bottom of 1. I'm going to place 3 units behind 3 walls. He can Sapper one of them, but he has to kill 2 other units over walls that if he doesn't remove will charge him next turn because they're in range to kill his whole army because he's so far up the board. And if he does, and he invests all of that, like all those attacks, all that attrition, all those spells, he's getting 15 points of my army for basically nothing. And I just get to clear his army, which is kind of what ends up happening is he has to invest really heavy into killing stuff. He alphas me a little. He pops feet on Moraine. He misses 2 of his mortalities because he needs 12s boosted. He sappers one of my walls, which we expected to happen. So he mortalities 2 units because he gets 4 spells for free, and he just like can't. He's like, I can't cast another one. I have to Spirit Door away. So he mortalities 2 units, which means I still have another unit I could Stay Death. So he just had to super overinvest into killing me. He can't really not go all in that turn because I will charge him back, or he has to stand so far back that he's not scenario relevant because the objectives are skewed to me. So he was forced to, with him playing so far forward on top of 1, he kind of might have killed himself a little bit because he just really did not have a good option. He had to either overinvest into killing my stupid idiots or not overinvest, and then I get to kill his stupid everything, basically. But there's also a really terrible obstruction on the right side of the board for him, like on like his side of the board. That's like a long wall that like is like it's like a long
Oh
obstruction.
yeah, it's one of those Signar like obstructions that's really tall and
Yeah,
really long.
really
Like
really
it's almost
tall,
like
long obstruction.
yeah, it's almost a Tetris piece obstruction.
Yeah, and the cats love stuff like that because I got to go put one on the other, like the outside of this wall, and then put the other ones like here and here on like the ends of the wall. I'm like, there's no way you can kill all three of these with one unit. You'll have to require at
Right.
least 2 to 3 units, and you can't see one of the cats, so you'll have to figure out how to deal with that. And so I was just like, I get to contest this for the entire game. I have this 50 that I get to contest the entire game, or score this entire game. I have this flag he can never touch. And I'm like, I think if the game goes long, I just eventually win. But he has to basically trade a bunch of his army for like 15 points of my army. And he ends up killing Redeem, which I didn't expect. So it was really more like 20 points. But I was able to Vengeance. I was able to smite Aberration backwards. So he's even further away from my 50. And I'm like, he's basically out of the game now at this point. I kill his mage hunters, I kill most of his cats, I kill his archers, and at that point he goes for a really cool play where he because with aberration or with Moraine, whenever I forget what the ability is actually called, but when you kill one of her models, she gets to cast a spell
yeah, she has a slightly renamed Revelations of Outer Darkness.
Yeah, so she got to he was going for the all-in play because at that point he was really, really behind. Where he spirit doored Moraine like directly in the front of everything, like in between, like right next to Makeda, basically. Like Makeda's on the other side of a 40 mil, and I'm able to kind of just like run a random will breaker to stand right where her landing zone would be. And I'm like, well, you can never kill this will breaker because I'm gonna stay def it over and over and over again, and you have no landing zone to kill Makeda. And from there, he couldn't really climb back in on scenario. I was in the entire center of the board. I had most of the objectives at that point. So ended up going to me, but did not expect to play into Moraine. Definitely the right pick.
Yeah. Note to Keith, remind me to make content about classifying War Machine terrain pieces as Tetris pieces. I think there's actually... like, this is going to sound really stupid, but I think there's a lot of value to it. It's not just going to be like a slop listicle. Like, I think you can actually like categorize War Machine terrain pieces as Tetris pieces.
Yeah.
Anyways, Keith just Discorded me. Make Tetris pieces out of terrain. That's not what I meant, but that's good enough. So we trade dance partners here, not quite literally. But instead of Rusty playing King, you get a friend of the show, Mike Sterling, playing King of Nothing. And I pick up Mr. Phil Howell, and he's actually playing Tyrus into me. Just real quick, this comes up as a Boggity Bomb versus Tyrus matchup. So we're like matching each other on threat range parity, and we have this like awkward little like back and forth game. And like, who's gonna pop their feet first? Spoiler alerts, it's me, and it's to jam like 60% of his army with my Marauder crew, while Kruger goes and has the best activation of his life, where he teleports in, kills a Dreadguard Cav, toughs the other one, and then kills Sasha and Benki.
It's unfortunate.
Kruger with Fuel for the Flames is unfair. But so I collapse aside pretty quickly. Phil still has his threat range advantage, but the lines have collapsed to the point where like it's no longer an advantage. He's been strangle holding my king almost nonstop, and he has a back and forth, I think on turn 3 or 4, where he's like, I could step forward and strangle hold your king. It's a 60% chance because I'm armed 22 with Iron Flesh. But if it fails, I literally immediately lose.
Yep.
And then after the game's like, Phil's like, I should have taken that 60% chance. Because the king got a crazy amount of work on the one turn he was allowed to have a combat action.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
letting the model do anything is unfortunate.
Yeah, God, the king is so good. I might be a crazy person here, but I think it's straight up the best colossal this year. Just the best.
It is. Whenever I have that conversation, it's definitely the first one I mentioned. So I wouldn't disagree.
All right, but let's move on to the one everybody's here for. So you're playing Mike Sterling, King of Nothing versus Obligate Makeda. Is this the first matchup of the day where you feel like, oh crap, I really wish I had all my Zadesh models?
Yeah. Yes and no.
Because if I was to look at this, I would say, yeah, this is a Zadesh matchup every time.
Going into the matchup, I've played a lot. Grimkin was like my first real army, so I know what the army does. I'm very familiar with all their rules. I also was like a day oneer of like the Slaughterhouse, even like before it got all of its buffs in January. I was a big believer in it. So I know that model struggles
Slaughterhouse
with
ride or die.
Like quantity of attack, like it struggles with quantity of attacks because it requires a lot of support. Grimkin in general requires a lot of support models.
Yeah, and that's also like all old school colossal paradigm. Like the hallmark of modern Mark IV colossals is like they have, regardless of build, they have 6+ initials. They don't struggle with volume. Yep. Every single old colossal struggles with volume. Literally everyone.
It has 4 attacks. You're required to play with a death knell, which is 6 points. So it's a 26-point colossal, which is pretty cheap in theory. But you're forced to play with a death knell, which has got a point reduction, thankfully. But that's 6 points. You want to play it with Carriona Rose, which is 3 points. You want to play it with a Grave Ghoul, which is 3 points. So this model, and then he also played a Frightmare to give it eyeless sight. So like this model that is in textbook 26 points is really closer to 40 points. However, it is a really good 40 points. So I was going, my idea initially was to play Zadesh because Zadesh is the only thing that could actually kill a house potentially. Because the house is like armor 22 basically the whole game. I thought he was going to play. I thought about it a bunch. I wasn't sure what he was going to play. I was like, if he plays Dreamer, it's like effectively armor like 24. If he enfeebles my Mammoth, and I'm like, well, this gets tough. And I ended up choosing Makeda because I didn't know how a rule worked. I thought you could pull battle engines. And so I was like,
oh, sure. Yeah, we had this discussion as I was on the road back.
Yeah, so the other main reason I was going to play.
Right, you were worried about Bloody Parliament. You were worried about House Laser.
Yeah,
because we had a Discord back and forth. Like, no, literally neither of those things work against your battle engine.
Yeah, the other reason I was like, well, let's play Zadesh is Zadesh has sack pawn to the Mammoth, and the Mammoth is like armor 24 against guns. So
right, he can never House Laser your caster.
He can basically never kill Zadesh. But I thought you could pull battle engine. So I was like, although I do have this one pair, he just gets to eat 13 points a turn. Not how that works. Knowing that rule, I think I do want to play Zadesh here, but I played Makeda.
This is all fortunate copium for the fact that you couldn't actually field Zadesh.
Yes, thankfully I wasn't. I would have been probably a little bit salty at myself if I did know that and knew I was supposed to play Zadesh. However, he ended up playing King of Nothing into me with the intention of King of Nothing's Trump Arcana like shuts down Makeda for
no healing. No healing, lose undead, lose construct, blah blah blah. He gains blessed, so he bypasses deflection, he bypasses Kreia Animus, he bypasses Stay Death, but he doesn't bypass most of your models being like comically undercosted with good base defensive stats.
Yes. So he believe I go first, and he chooses to go second, and he chooses table side. And I think looking back on the game, I think this is where he may have lost the game. Not lost the game necessarily, but the game became way harder.
He definitely handicapped himself. Yeah.
Because the place where if he went second would have put his flag. We were playing high stakes.
Like a cow on dimethyltryptamine, the stakes have never been higher.
Yeah, the place where he was forced to put his flag was a humongous building, like a humongous obstruction that I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm allowed to contest that model for
It's
free the entire game. With
on the
basically
note
no
of
reason.
on the note of Tetris pieces. Yeah, it's a plus shape that's like approximately 8 inches on each axis.
Yeah, it was probably the most obnoxious shaped thing for your flag to be on I could think of in the game. It was really, really tough. And my flag was on a really convenient wall that I really wanted to already, or a linear obstruction wall that I already wanted to stand behind. So I was like, this is perfect. I was like, this is a really, really good board for me to play on scenario. Um, he praised my Karax with the Bloody Parliament, which means they can't do anything. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to put other units first, and these guys are going to get the pleasure, like the parade unit's going to get the pleasure of sitting on this objective the whole game. So they do that. He is able to kill one of my cats early with Bloody Parliament. He labyrinths to make me -2 speed. He breath stealers some of my cats on the left flank that are just kind of contesting that building. So they're -4 speed. And his house is now kind of like just in the middle of the table. I'm like, well, he's going to shoot whatever he wants to next turn, basically, other than Makeda. I have one shield guard in Makeda, so I'm like, I can prevent one shot. I have to use it really sparingly. It's also attached to a 7-point war beast, one of my 2 war beasts. So I'm like, well, I can't just like let this go forever. So I'm just gonna have to let him shoot whatever he wants to, unless it's my caster. I uh, I bottom or top of 2 and able to because I have Labyrinth. I'm under Labyrinth, but he forgets that I have Vengeance. So the Karax that he kills a bunch.
So he overexposes himself on it on your threat range, like trusting that you can't reach him and just like forgetting to read all the way down.
Yeah. Which didn't end up being that impactful, but it did mean my unit of Keltari were able to kill a unit of Dreadrots. So we were able to go basically to pay. Like I'm going
That's
down
quite
1 point.
impactful.
I'm going down 1, but like in that matchup, when you have really so few models, every model I kill of his is way more impactful. Like if we're going point for point, me killing 6 points of his army is way more impactful than killing 6 points of my army.
Every model of his you kill is essentially like an extra fury that Makeda's stack gets to count toward.
Yeah, it is a
like
big.
You said it's like you said at the front. You're establishing inevitability along a very specific vector.
Yeah, so he is able to, and I'm able to charge his Bloody Parliament with a not prayed the 2 remaining cats. I have the Leads of Halak. I'm just gonna keep these in the middle of the table. It's really hard to shoot at these even with boosted attacks because their defense 19 with 4 soar and deflection, and I am able to kill 2 of the Bloody Parliament, which are like the big things I had to kill. And once they're jammed and they're not in melee with their prey, they're way more reasonable. I think I was also able to, or no, that was the next turn. He cracks back. He is able to kill 1 of my cats on the right flank. He is able to send in the monkey to kill the remaining Keltari because it's really good at killing random dudes. This is a turn he uses a cursed, which is the no damage can be removed. All my models get blessed if you're in my control range. So I was like, well, this is the most important turn of the game. He also uses Fortune's Path because it is such an important turn of the game. And he's able to crack back a little bit harder than I expected him to. He is able to kill
+1/+1 and blessed.
He is able to finish off my Keltari. He is able to kill 1 of the 2 remaining cats, which was good for me because if you don't kill the full unit, I can revive them again. But I ended up forgetting because I'm to revive to that unit. So future, it was good, but future me was very upset at me for not reviving. And so he's down to 1. He's down to just like 1 of the Bloody Parliament. He has like 3 Dreadrots left on the right side because he's been Dark Ritualing through them. And so I'm able to send in Redeem to go in because he's got 16 inches, non-linear. So he just went in. He was able to kill a Grave Ghoul. He was able to kill Baron Tonguelick. He was able to kill something else too. Witchwood. And I was also able to send in a second unit of Karax, or like a unit of Karax that was not prayed to go and like contest that whole side of the board. And other than his house was in the
Right.
middle, and I basically killed everything on this half of the on his my right, his left side of the board. And so I'm like, okay, he now has to start sending models over there because he can't.
Really he's got to start moving models between theaters to go and contest your defensively placed flag on a wall that's over by the core of your army.
Yeah, and he really didn't have much to do it, so he ends up having to.
Yeah, I remember watching some infantry dorks move over there and then king teleport in at some point. Yeah.
He ends up being able to charge in. So another thing about that matchup is not only do they have a curse, they also have entropic force, or just no anti-tough everywhere.
I mean, it's fortunate. It's fortunate you were playing wide because he essentially has all the technology one could want to deal with Makeda, but he doesn't necessarily have all the applicators everywhere he would actually want it or need it.
Yeah, exactly. So he's the death knell has entropic, but it's on a 5-inch bubble, so and that model needs to stay next to the house basically.
Right. Yeah, he's on a leash.
Because if the house is ever not armor 22, I can actually start pumping damage into it and I'm just jamming it with Karax, my 5-point unit. He ends up
God help it if it doesn't have entropic when dealing with those dickheads.
He is able to end up. We kind of just end up slogging over on his 40 for a while. He can't remove me in one turn. I'm not good at removing him. He ends up just running his gremlin swarm to try to get into a position the turn after to put it onto my flag to contest because I don't really have anything left with magical weapons other than the card. So it forces me to use a card activation on a model that is not trivial to remove. He gets to step up with the house. He is able to kill a cat. He is able to kill. I forget what he shoots. He shoots something. I think he shoots one of the Legends of Halak, and he kills it. And then he's able to, and this was my bad, he ends up being able to kind of eat through a whole unit of Karax and one of the Legends of Halak. No, not one of the Legends of Halak, but almost Legends of Halak with a Rattler, which his Animus is also Grievous Wounds. So he's able to, he has a Berserk Overtake, so he's able to surf through a whole unit of Karax. And I don't really have good recourse for it, so I have to invest my Legend of Halak the next turn. He ends up controlling the 50 because he took me off of it. So I score 2-1.
You're riding up slightly.
But
that's sort of a pattern that continues the whole game more or less.
Yeah,
he's wiping you on attrition, but you're it never once is he able to pull ahead on scenario.
Yeah, and also being ahead in points as first player going into top of 3 is really good because it means. I'm already ahead. It means I don't have to do that much to swing that advantage a little bit more my way. It's what I end up doing. I end up vengeancing the Legend of Halak. Them plus the Cyclops is able to kill his Rattler. The Legend of Halak with their actual activation are able to go kill some Dreadroths or something. I don't remember. The cats are able to, the cats are able to come kill his Dreadrot, his other unit of Dreadrots that are over on his flag on the left side of the board. I have to invest the Beast Handlers because my 3 cats with charges could not kill 3 Dreadrots, which just happens. So we invested our Beast Handlers, but now we're scoring his flag. And we are able to kill most of the stuff on his 40. So we end that round. And also I have my unit of Karax that was prayed. Charge in between his Gremlin Swarm in his house just to be on his house. The issue is
just to stack up and keep it from moving.
Yeah, and they're able to use the Blessing of the Gods card to kill the Gremlin Swarm, kind of just stand there next to him. However, the one thing that was really important about this matchup going into it that I knew that he would also exploit is I don't have very many quality targets for the porch light on the house, but the one big one I have is Aberration. Is he has Aberration? If he ever shoots Aberration, if it's early in the game, I will lose if I'm not ahead on board.
Yeah. You need to be winning on every other vector. And so I think
Yeah.
I pitched up to this game after my game with Phil around the point Aberration gets dragged.
Yes. So he has to Animus with his house, and he has to use. I have like 3 Karax or something on him. He charges with the wagon first, something else like the Legend of Halak. He kills one Legend of Halak, but it kills a wall and also gets Entropic Force on that unit, which is really smart. Means it can't tough, means it can't stay death, means that the house actually can remove them. He is able to kill. So he Animus is first to give me -2 defense. So I'm defense 11.
So his house can actually hit you
Yeah,
consistently.
he kills me with his he boosts one of the attacks, and then so he's on 2 fury left. Is able to unjam, and he shoots my Aberration, pulls me in, but he only gets 2 attacks, and I have vision, so I'm able to vision one of them, but I still took like a POW 23 or something, or 24.
Absurdly high, like dice plus like 6 or 7.
I was dice plus 6, so it was a POW 23. And so I take one big attack. But thankfully, Aberration's still in the game. He has Dreadrots nearby, but they don't have Pathfinders, so they can't charge over the wall that's in the way. So he has to kind of walk them on. And at POW 10 up to 11 Weapon Masters on a walk, you're down to 2 dice. You're off 6. They didn't really do much that mattered. I'm able to. I'm also throughout the game, since it's high stakes, removing points off of objectives.
Right.
He chose to remove points off the 50 in the middle on bottom of 2, and then we end up rolling to take him off. Top of 3, it's contested, so it's random. Also takes it off the 50, and I'm like, this is the one I didn't want it to be because I really have no means of fighting his house over the 50 in the middle. So I'm like, this is not looking good, and we rolled 3 to take 3 off and 1 off on that one, so. It's on 1 counter left, so if he scores it one more time, he just gets to run the middle of the board.
My absolute favorite one to explode comes later.
Yeah, and I'm like, I have to keep contesting this. So, but Aberration is alive and next to the house and next to the wagon. But unfortunately, with the wagon, the house is armor 22, so I have to kill the wagon first. I have nothing but Aberration that can kill the wagon. So Aberration activates, he kills the wagon, he does like 25 damage or something to the house, but I'm still just next to the house. So I'm like,
not enough to actually make sure he lives.
Yeah, Aberration is dead. I have to make sure that I am scoring a lot elsewhere because he is going to go to his turn. He's going to take the last counter off of that 50 in the middle, and then it is going to become a much harder game because then he's scoring more points. So I am able to take him off his flag somehow. I'm able to unjam the flag because he just doesn't have the quantity of models to sit on it. I should also mention,
he has the most high impact models, but at this point he's like running out of Krabbits. He's running X and Y and Z dorks to die next to objectives. He's really running out of minis. Aside from like his 40 mil objective, which you're sending like Karax into.
Yeah. Also on his turn, I'd forgotten to mention his whatever the weird gun, the Frightmare Frenzied. Killing his the guy with the wagon. I forget. The guy with
the Malady man.
Yeah. So I go into that. I'm way up in points now, but I'm like, he's going to take Aberration. He's going to start scoring way out in the middle. When we randomized it, we took 1 off of my flag, and I'm like, okay, we need to keep that tempo up. We need to keep taking it off of this one so I can actually start to score 2. Actually, it was down to 1 somehow. I think I scored it another time. I don't remember. So it's down to 1. And he goes to his turn. He's able to take Dark Seduction, one of my Karax, off of his 40, so I'm no longer scoring it or contesting it. He is able to contest the flag again. He is able to contest my 40. And so he's the score is like, and then he kills Aberration, blows up the 50. So now the 50 is worth 2. I think I'm up like what was it? I think I was up like
You were
8. I
like
think it was
up
like 10 to 8.
up one or yeah,
I think
up
I was
one
up
or two,
2.
yeah.
So it was like 10-8 me, and I'm like, I can't kill the house, but I can kill basically everything else that turn. So he has nothing really that can stop me from scoring my flag. He has
One of the
basically,
proest plays I saw in this turn was because he's messing with your close flag, like he's contesting it and
yeah, he's Dread
contesting it
Roth.
with vigor. I think he's put king over there, and you
Yeah,
charge. I don't know if this was intentional, but
midway through the turn.
You charge Exelon Nastilla in there, and she's like, melee you dork, spray you dork. And she's camping line like, and she ends her activation. I'm like, this is brilliant. That scenario terrain is about to blow up, and Nastilla is specifically camping focused to like tank
She's,
through it
she's
because the
camping and had
only
vision up.
model left there is King, and he doesn't
He
contest.
doesn't contest. Yeah, he had what was, I don't remember what the spell is called. He has a remove a model or something to teleport to
Oh
it.
yeah.
Because when you damage a war beast, which I killed his Krabbit. When I killed his Krabbit, triggered remove one of his Dreadrots, teleported deep into my flag, and I'm like, well, I'm going to put Nostilla, because Aberration is dead at this point. I'm like, Nostilla is like now at this point doesn't need to just sit back really safe. She can just be an actual aggressive piece. I'm like, well, she kills Dreadrots. She's anatomical precision, so no tough. She has good stats. He has nothing that can really kill her unless he wants to put the house into me. But if he puts the house into me, he's stepping off the 50. And I'm like, if he's stepping off the 50, then I'm winning the game. Nostilla goes in. She puts vision on herself because why not? She kills a bunch of Dreadrots. All that's left is the King of Nothing. He can't contest. I'm contesting the middle with a unit of like beasts, so I'm scoring his flag. My 40.
Just to set the scene, Nastilla's just had this whole interaction with King of Nothing and these Dreadrots on your close flag wall that's about to explode. And then on Sterling's side, there's his 40 mil objective that like he's had to go to some really wild measures to actually unjam from these dickhead Karax that just keep coming back and back and back.
He had, because what on that side of the board he had at the start of the game he had like Baron, Witchwood, 2 units of Dreadrots, the Bloody Parliament, and like they just were constantly jammed by like Redeem and a unit of guys. So like my 14 points that throughout the entire game he didn't even actually end up finishing off the unit. Like and we went to like I think we went to bottom of 6, top of 7. He just could not unjam for the entire game with like 20 points of models. My 14 points.
Right. And then on the other side of the board, so there's a house in the middle. The house has won the attrition fight. There's nothing in your army that can kill it anymore.
Nope.
But you go a few degrees west of the house, and there's his big plus-shaped flag that you're controlling the crap out of, and it's like maybe 4 or 5 inches from your 40 mil objective that you're also controlling the crap out of. And on that side, you've got like unit of Ferox, remnants of some Karax, beast handlers, Makeda, like just all the dorks in the entire universe to say, okay, we're going to securely control these 2 points. And that one central thing where you've won attrition wise forever, we're just going to delay you.
Yeah. And so since the 50 is contested at the end of my turn, we randomize where we remove it from the flag that's at full or the flag that's at 1, and it takes it off the flag that's at 1 on my side, blows up, kills his last Dreadrot, kills my Willbreaker, so it's just Nostilla and
King,
and King. And Nostilla's a solo. She scores flags on her own, and King doesn't contest because he's a caster. So I'm scoring 2 there now. I'm contesting the 50. I'm contesting his 40. I'm scoring 2 on the other side. So I think it goes up like 14 to 8 or something. And at that point, there's not really an efficient way for him to come back. So he just has to go all in on assassination.
Especially because like you ended your turn on like 3 minutes and Sterling untaps with like 90 seconds.
Yeah, something like that. And so I just have to run. I just run Makeda on the outside of that flag, the plus shape building, and I'm like, she's just way over there because that's really his only way to win at that point. I'm like, I just need her to not die. So she casts Deflection. I forget to cast Force Aura, but she should have cast Force Aura, and she just runs to cover. And he charges something. He puts Eyeless Sight on it. He charges something, he kills two of the models that were engaging it, and then couldn't kill the last beast handler that was engaging it to shoot out of to shoot Makeda because he didn't have gunfighter. So he lost his only avenue because his plan was going to be kill the things, charge so I have a line, kill the things that are engaging the house, and then shoot Makeda, pull me in with porch light, and then just beat me to death. But he could not. He missed one. It was a pretty bad roll. He got like one, like I think he missed like a re-rolled 6 or something. He needed a 6 with a re-roll, couldn't hit it, and he couldn't kill the third model that was engaging him, and he couldn't shoot out of melee, and just at that point he also had relinquished his control over the 50, and we ended the game. I forget what the final score was, but we ended with me winning on scenario. So.
Yeah, and you become the first Beach Brawl champion. I actually do want to take a shout out because like you guys had a substantial crowd around your table by the time this ended. I do want to do a shout out to Mr. Mike Sterling, who like went on this like, all right, last ditch assassination isn't going to work out, and he's like, I have 20 seconds on my clock. So I'm going to take a moment to thank Brandon Owens for hosting and everyone attending. Just like, you know, the class act final speech with 20 seconds on clock.
That was my second game against Sterling. The guy's a sweetheart. We had actually at the end of day one, he was like, I know it's going to be us in the finals. And he's like, and I don't know what I do. And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I haven't thought about that matchup very much either. And then lo and behold, it ended up being us in the finals. He is a sweet human. We went into the game. He's like, he's just like, I want to be clear on both sides. It's a game. Like, it should be fun. It should be like casual. Like if like you meant to do something, let me know. And if I meant to do something, I'll let you know. And I'm like, yeah, the game is, at the end of the day, it's still a game. It is being taken very competitively and seriously, but it is still a game. It should we should still be trying to have fun and being somewhat like courteous and nice to each other. It's funny because we were like two of the least serious people there. We were both just like joking the entire time, and it was an awesome final table. It was an absolute grinder.
Yeah. I think you guys were the last, if not very close to the last game going in that last round.
Yeah,
so
I think we were the very last table. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, congratulations on I guess winning your first travel event, and congratulations once again on being the Beach Brawl champion. Very well earned. Some fantastic dark horse piloting, and yeah, I mean, I think I said at the top of this, like I kind of just had it in my bones, like I think Nick can go the distance, and then we hit the end of the day one, and I'm like, I think Nick's gonna win.
Yeah, I thankfully I dodged because I knew what Grim.
You did dodge some hard matchups, especially with no Zadesh in your bag.
Yeah. I going into day two, I was like, okay, let's look at who the trios are. It was Dusk, Grimkin, and Chimera, and I was like, I really don't want to play into Chimera because I've never played into Lilith, and I've never played into the other one, Kyrax, and I'm like, I don't know what they do. I don't know how to play into them. If I play into that, I struggle. And thankfully, that was the one matchup in the top four I was able to dodge.
Well, you've also never played against Aaron Allen, and the man is a machine.
Yeah, no, that's Sterling was telling me. He's like, yeah, I was really behind. He's like, and I respect my opponent a lot as a player. He's like, the only thing, he's like, I think if the game goes long, I lose, and he just kind of went all in on an assassination run that panned out. So. Thankfully, I was able to dodge Chimera because I do know what Grimkin does. Sterling is a very, very good player, though. So I was scared, but it was a fantastic game and a great event. Great final conclusion to that event.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I am. we've run later than usual, but Nick, I want to thank you for hanging on and telling us your story. Brandon could not refuse the siren call of dinner, but I want to thank him for running a fantastic event and for sharing about plans for the future. I want to thank all of you for watching live with us. If you have not already, go ahead and check out our stream games on Amusing Panda and be prepared for Arcane Wargaming to go live soon now that the YouTube appeal is through. And I think that's it for tonight. Any final shout outs, Nick?
I'd also like to thank Brandon Owens for putting on a fantastic event. Really, everybody who was able to make it out there, everybody was so nice. So it was so awesome to get to meet a lot of people who I
It was
see.
a great show.
Great turnout. Great. We had like great like turnout from like different regions. We had a little bit of everything. We had
Yeah.
Ryan McCon out from like Chicago,
McQueen.
like
His
McQueen.
name is unpronounceable based on its spelling.
Unpronounced.
It's
Yeah.
McCoin.
We got him out from Chicago. We had some. I think we had some North Pacific players. We had a lot of
Yep. Pacific
California. We had
Northwest. Yep. Strong Arizona. Loads of
strong Arizona,
California.
California. We had Texas. I think we had some like Nevada. It was a great turnout.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, it was awesome. I've been getting in a lot of reps in on War Table against a couple guys, so that's where most of my preparedness kind of came from. Probably was my local community and War Table, like, so great event, great weekend.
All right. With that, Keith, take us away.